Good morning and welcome to SafariLIVE. On vehicle this morning, you'll have Samuel Chevalier and Jeandre, who will be taking you around the bush, hopefully to many, many different places, such as Cheetah Plains and the hyena den. We'll get there just now. The degrees at the moment is 15 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be an exciting morning, and I've got two things in my hands, as you can see. Firstly, let's have a look at the stars. So, I have a really, really cool app on my phone. Actually, Jeandre, our cameraman, has a very cool app on his phone, and I must hold it very still, otherwise it's going to be very difficult for us to navigate around here. But he is able to tell, well, this app is able to tell us the different star constellations as well as what planets are around us. And it's difficult to see where Mars is at the moment. I'm just trying to find Mars. But basically, let's leave this. Let's leave this and rather look at the star. There's in that app, me and Jeandre were able to see what star that is in the distance. And it is Mars. And we can tell that is Mars not only by the app that we had a look at, but also because that quite reddish glow that you see there. And that comes from the dust that surrounds Mars on top there. And is reflecting back at us from the sun's light. So isn't that incredible to wake up to a nice, big, red planet this morning? And not only that, we've got something else that decided to come on board with Mr. Ellie, myself, and Jeandre. I'm just going to put him on the mantelpiece. Not the mantelpiece. Isn't that an incredible-looking creature? So first we thought it was a stick insect. That was our first, idea. But then we also thought it could have been a praying mantis, but for some reason, I don't know, it looks like it's in between, Jeandre?
I'll go for mantis.
It's a mantis, yeah. Have a look at that head structure. I don't know if you can see it here, but you can actually see it's perfectly in line here. But there's actually two. So there's two sides there. He's so beautiful. Well, I have no idea how to tell the difference between male and female with these creatures. But there's even another creature that's on board with us this evening, and it looks like a moth. So we'll get to the moth. Mr. Ellie, Elvis the Ellie, and there's the moth. So good morning to you all who want to join Jeandre and Sam on their adventures this morning into the distance. But let's have one last look at this praying mantis. And do you know why it's called the praying mantis? Because it kind of looks like it is praying. It's in the name. So it has its arms close to you like that. And it's just incredible that there are creatures on our planet that look like this. So it really, really does look like a leaf, or a stick rather, not a leaf. But it is really beautiful. Have a look at those two antennae. So those must be to help feel and move around when going through the tree. But you can see those eyes there. Those eyes are also really, really beautiful. And they look like they are able to... So some eyes are... So we have binocular vision, which means that we have two eyes that help us see something from two perspectives. Some insects have secular vision, or they have a number of different eyeballs that help them collect on what they're looking at, which is just amazing when you start to think about different ways of seeing. So this praying mantis might be seeing the world completely different to us this morning. So welcome on board with us. I hope that you enjoy your trip with us. I'm just going to put you next to us, because looks like he wants to box me. Please don't box me. See how he might react to me. Here we go, my friend. I'm not trying to hurt you, I promise you. Yo, look at those arms. Isn't this incredible? Hello. Okay, so I'm going to put you down. I'm actually going to put him outside the vehicle, because this is not fair to actually take him on a trip away from us. So let me just take this out for 2 seconds, and then we can go off to the hyena den and see what might have been found there this morning.
Morning, mobile station, route and update, please. Going back.
There he goes.
Going off his road.
hyena den. The other station went quarantine.
So let's go and have a look at the hyena den and see what might be lurking around there this morning. Fantastic morning with Mars, praying mantis, elves the ellie, and a moth. And of course, our friend Jeandre at the back. From Mars to aliens, eh, X-Ranger? Yeah, I must say, the praying mantis does look like it's from another planet. Really, really, really cool. We found him on our vehicle this morning, sitting on the camera. So, what we're not going to tell to go away is this moth. This moth looks quite relaxed next to us here. But let's see what the day might bring today. I'm quite excited to see what we might find. Potentially we might find some active hyenas. If not, Jeandre and I, the last time we were in the vehicle together, we went off to Cheetah Plains and we found a southern reedbuck. And it was so hilarious because we didn't know what it was. So while we head off to the hyena den, let's go and welcome James the day. We'll see you in a bit.
Good morning, everybody. Marvellous to have you with us here on what is another perfect low-felt day here in the northeast corner of South Africa. My name is James Jeandre. On camera today, Bryan, his last drive for the next 2 or so weeks. He's about to go on holiday. Bryan, where are you going?
I'm going back to Joburg.
Back to Johannesburg, his old hometown, see his mum.
Yep.
Knock about the place. Try and remember what it's like to be part of the first world, sort of. You are all most welcome, and we're just as live as Sam is, of course. Hashtag SafariLIVE, talk to us on Twitter, otherwise you can email us questions at wildearth.tv. We've come into the western reaches of Djuma. We're going to probably head a little bit onto Arathusa a bit later, to the west of us, but our idea is to just quickly check the south here for any evidence of Karula and her little babies. And hopefully they've come back across. I'm not sure whether that is the case or not. They certainly haven't by yesterday. So we'll check that, and then we'll pop onto Arathusa and see what we can find there. Very little in the way of lion calling during the course of the night, so I'm not sure where they all are. There were at least 2 Birmingham males on Buffels Hook yesterday afternoon. We don't know where the other 2 are at the moment, which is quite interesting. And the Nkohuma pride has vanished. No doubt they will pitch up fairly soon. So that's the general plan. You're most welcome, like I say, and it'd be good to have whatever chats you wish to have as we go through the evening, of course, at least the morning. Well, evening for some of you. What an unbelievable sighting we had to close off the drive yesterday. Blind luck provided us with a serval. A serval so relaxed it looked like it had taken some kind of Valium, and it was wandering around completely, well, not oblivious to us, but it just didn't react in the slightest. Now, instead of looking at the sun rise, let us look at the running away of the night. And I always like the kind of opposite sky. There is the western horizon, and you can just see the night sort of drifting down. As the day comes, the night is folding down west over the Drakensberg, and you can see the twinkling lights there of Bushbuck Ridge. Bushbuck Ridge is a very large sort of settlement area, rural settlement, municipal area of a number of different villages. And there are the knolls, the hills of Ulusaba, on which Richard Branson's little schloss resides. Very nice, Bryan.
Oh, thank you, James.
Mm-hmm. You can just hear 15 degrees Celsius, that's 59 Fahrenheit. Just on this reserve, and you can go from sort of, I'd say probably as high as 16 or 17 all the way down to 12, depending on how high you are on the reserve. And that's only a characteristic of the winter, where the cold air tends to sink into the dips and the valleys, and the warm air sits on top of the crests. And it doesn't seem to happen in summer. In summer, you don't feel the same thermocline. Maybe because it's volcanically hot all the time, and once you get beyond a certain temperature, you don't notice the difference. Certainly not very cold yet. It's going to get a lot colder, Bryan, while we're on leave. We're going to head on to the southern boundary now and see if we can spot any tracks of the Queen and her little princes, or her prince and her princess, coming across. There are some impala, Bryan, running away from us. The impala are making a tremendous racket during the night at the moment. They're making a tremendous racket now. Not quite as much a racket as Jeandre is making. Jeandre is the vehicle in which I'm driving. And we are driving. So here are the impala. Stop running away. Absolutely terrified they are for some reason. And I think they're all on edge because of the males, and they're fighting and snorting and herding. This chap's managed to get himself a rather sad harem of 2 females. I suppose it's better than none. Okay, we're right on the southern boundary now. Find any evidence. The impala are never a great sign when you're looking for leopards, unless they're snorting or about to be eaten. We had an amazing sighting the other night of Tingana, who's currently on Cheetah eating something, probably a male impala, and what he did was very interesting. He lay down on quarantine clearings as soon as he heard the male impala rutting, and he moved closer. We turned the lights off, and after a while the impala started to alarm call. And I've often been asked, do I think that the predators or the prey are able to smell their predators, and I would have said until that moment I didn't think that it was a major factor in their defense, because I thought the prey would probably have evolved to have almost no scent, because there are absolutely animals out here that do have virtually no scent, precisely to avoid their predators. So I thought, well, why would it be different for the predators themselves? And they picked him up in the darkness. They definitely smelt him. There was a slightly swirling wind, and they all started alarm calling. They didn't know what they were alarm calling at, but they certainly did give a big noise as soon as the scent of one of the apex predators here, Tingana, our favourite male leopard, well, my second favourite male leopard. As soon as his scent touched their noses. Right, so this is what we call the Gari main road. This is our southern boundary, and what we are doing is just seeing if we can see some tracks, or ideally the leopard herself, the 2 cubs walking towards us. So we'll do a gentle drive along here. We're heading due east now, off to the far side of this road there. You can see the horizon there is Cheetah Plains, just over the horizon there. And behind us is Arathusa. I'm just quickly going to get a communications check from Rebecca to see that she is still there. Are you still there, Rebecca? Almost no comms. It should be okay now. Try again. Sorry about this, everyone. There we go. I'll copy you now. Just ease down here. Ellies? Oh, you mean those big grey things? Those ones there? Yeah. Ooh. I'm just going to go back, everybody. Bryan spotted some elephants. Very clever of you, Bryan.
Oh, thank you. One does what one can.
Yes, one does indeed. I missed them entirely. Aaron, while we look at those elephants, you want to know how big the home range of a serval is. I think they've got more territory than a home range, Aaron, and the difference, of course, being that one is actively defended where the other is not. A home range is not actively defended. And I couldn't tell you exactly, but I would suspect that it's probably around about 10 hectares or 24 acres or so. I would say that would be my guess for the size of a serval territory. I'll have a little look and see if I can find out for you, but I'm pretty sure that's round about the size. There are definitely two servals that we know of. Well, I mean, there are obviously more, but there are two that we see. That one that we saw last night has been seen before, never in that kind of, never that sort of relaxedness and sort of for that any length of time like that. But we... Oh, gosh, there's a car coming. Hang on. I'm completely distracted now. I have to leave it back. 1 second, everyone. We'll go back to these ellies now. Thank you, Bryan. No problem. There we go. So, sorry, I was a bit distracted. He's going to fetch some guests, obviously, that have an aeroplane to catch around Hoedspruit. Now, Aaron, so we know of at least two servals that we see relatively regularly. That's not often, but we know where they are. We see their tracks, and I would say from their tracks, their home range or their territories are about 24 to 30 acres. Okay. Now, Appy, you want to know if we get African wildcats here and how many servals there are. We've got no idea how many servals there are. I imagine territories are probably full. Certainly there will be some inter-specific or inter-specific competition with African wildcats. We do get them here. I've seen one since I've been here, but they're also not common. Very nice question. Thank you, Appy, for that. There we go. Female defends a home range. If she defends a home range, it is inevitably a territory of 9.5 square kilometers to 20 square kilometers. To 9.5 square kilometers is 90 hectares, if I'm not mistaken. So much, much larger than I thought it was. I'm not convinced that I believe that. Anyway, so it's about double the size of what I thought. Anna-Marie, you were wondering about babies and servals and how many little kittens they can have, and of course we refer to them as kittens. Well, they have probably much the same as the litters of a domestic cat. Normally 2 or 3 kittens. So apparently they can breed more than once during a year, though, and it's very seldom that the litters will survive. So they obviously have a very high attrition rate amongst the little kittens, but 2 or 3 seems to be the average. And this is, of course, I mean, I've never seen this before. This is all entirely from text. That serval sighting we had last night, I know we're looking at an elephant, but just to keep you posted, was by far and away the best serval sighting I've ever had. He didn't react to us at all. It was just bizarre that he was completely, and I'm saying he, it could easily have been a she, that she was completely relaxed around us. And these elephants, likewise, completely relaxed. They got a little bit upset when that other vehicle moved past, and that's just simply the noise. It wasn't anything to do with the driver or the color or anything else like that. This one is now moving towards this other one. And Naveed, you say, is this a public road? Well, sometimes it feels like that, Naveed. No, it's not a public road, but it is a public servitude. So we're in the game reserve, and along this road are Cheetah Plains and Coral. They're all on this road. and so that means that people who want to get in and out have to be able to use it. And of course, the major driver of the economy in this area is tourism, and people come to and fro from the lodges, from airports close by, and often they have to leave early, and that's what that chap was doing. He's going to fetch some guests. That's not a public road. That's a young bull. This is, Bryan, what do you think? About 5 or 6 elephants in here, maybe. You just hear them flapping away there. Look at that. Being pushed about the place. Claire, you're in New York and you want to know if an elephant has toes. An elephant does have toes. All mammals have toes, to a greater or lesser extent. And an elephant has got toenails as well. It has got toenails. Sorry, I think you were asking about toenails. It absolutely has toenails. But they normally fall off, so you normally don't see much more than one toenail. In captivity, you'd probably find them. In captivity, you'd probably find that they persist for longer. But out here, no, the toenails disappear because they're moving around all the time. You also say, are they an ungulate? No, they're not an ungulate. Now, Sorry, I'm just really struggling with the comms here today. They're not ungulates. They form a totally different order. So the order Ruminatia, or the order, I guess they would be called the ungulates. They form an order entirely on their own called the Proboscidae, which basically means those of the long noses. Let's head across to Stef on the bushwalk. I will try and sort out my communications, and we'll see you just a little bit later.
Well, good morning from this brisk bushwalk this morning. What we're trying to do right off the bat, we're trying to sneak up onto the world's tallest land mammal. There you have there the 5.5 meter or about 5.5 yard tall plains giraffe, as you can see over there. It's a male, and I can tell that because the top of his horns are bald. Even from this distance, quite apparent. And obviously on his belly, that little sheath that you see there is a dead giveaway for when he walks behind a bush. Walks out from behind a bush. Now he's seen us, which is why he's moving off slightly. He's making his way onto the crest where we are now. And the reason for that is that there's much tastier trees up on the crest. I think he's going up on the crest. He's just been to drink somewhere around here. It looks like he's coming from the valley up onto the crest. And I think let's keep with him for a little bit. Let's go and see what he's up to. Giraffe, generally speaking, you can stay close to as long as you just respect that they've got this distance that they allow you to approach to. And anything into that zone, that flight zone, causes them to move off. But as long as you stay just outside of it, you should be okay, or we should be okay at least anyway. I forgot to say good morning to everybody with my name. I'm Stefan Winterboer, and on camera today is David. And we had a plan of going south this morning, which was hijacked by this giraffe, but not too much of a problem. I see he's now watching us. So we're just going to stop. He stops, we stop. That's the rule of the game. And you can see, taking absolutely no notice of us. His one ear, the ear closest to us, is pointing at us. There we go. He's completely happy with us. If he was unhappy with us, his ears would be, both his ears and his eyes would be trained on us, trying to ascertain threat. Right now you can see he's concentrating on something else. So, absolutely calm with where we are at the moment. And that's so nice, you know, to be close to an animal that's this big. And truly, I'd be able to walk underneath his front shoulder. That's how tall he is. Where his chest starts is usually about 6 feet, 6.5 feet. You can see he's quite a dark giraffe. Giraffe are either born blonde or they're born dark, brunette for lack of a better word. And they do get darker as they get older. But like giraffe, that that get dark never really get that dark. This is a brunette giraffe. But while we catch up with him, we're going to send you back through to James.
They seem to be coming across our road, everybody, these elephants. And let me just sneak slowly forward. This vehicle is quite difficult to sneak in, but I'm hoping that they're going to come across fully. And let's just ease our way down the road. And as the elephants go off to the south, so the sun, Bryan, is coming up to the east. There it is.
Beautiful.
Behold, yet again, the sun has come up, and what a joy it is to be able to watch that every single day. So, I was just doing a little bit of thinking and actually a little bit of reading while you were away there. The term ungulate is actually a bit of a difficult one to understand. These days, it basically means a hoofed animal, and they used to consider the elephants, or proboscidae, part of the ungulata, or the ungulates. They don't so much anymore. Interestingly, apparently an elephant genetically is more closely related to something like a golden mole than it is to a zebra, which I think is almost inconceivable. I'm not convinced that that's true, and I need to do a little bit more reading on it. But an elephant itself is not known as an ungulate anymore, and I think ungulate itself, the word, is often more a sort of English language convention than it is a biological designation anymore, as we've learnt more and more about different animals. So there you are, ungulate and elephant. Let's see if we can spot them again through here. This is exactly the road we want to be on. We want to spend some time on here and just assessing the situation. So while the elephants are here and the sun is bathing us in glorious red golden light, so we will spend a bit of time on this road. I think the elephants, Bryan, have oh no, here they are. They're right here now. Only about 3 meters, 10 feet from us. This is a young bull, and he's been throwing his weight around here, pushing the others about, but now settling into his breakfast. I'll just sneak slightly forward, Bryan. We had a question last night about where the ear opening is, and you can see it perfectly here. Well, there we go. That's the ear opening. That's the canal opening for the ear. And I thought for some time, I didn't think about it until somebody said, is the ear opening on the outside or the inside of the ear? And I just assumed it isn't. It's on the outside in exactly the same way as the ear opening for you is on the outside. Not many people have got flappy ears like this. I mean, I've met one or two. But other than that, the structure is fairly similar. You see how the light suddenly changed on them as the sun peeped up over the trees to the east? Look at that. They've just been bathed in a different color of light. They're more There we are. Hello. Just watch his eyes, because we learned yesterday that they have what we call a third eyelid, which closes from the back towards the front. It's a clear eyelid. It protects their eyes. Here comes this chap who's been throwing his weight around. They're very close by. I'm not too worried about him, even were he to try and throw his weight around us. He's 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 probably about 18, maybe 20. I think he's going to be quite a big tusker when he gets old. But he's not big enough for us to worry too much about, simply because he won't have the psychological strength, if you like, to give us any trouble. This is wonderful. Might actually, you know what I think we're looking at here is a group of small bulls. Young bulls, 3 of them together. There's one in the background. There might be a herd close-ish by. And he's got an itchy bottom, Bryan. You see that? Mm-hmm. No one likes to have an itchy bottom. No. I must scratch it against a knobthorn tree. Hello, Elaine. A very valid question from you. Do any of the villagers, the local people in this area, have they ever managed to tame or domesticate elephants in the same way that they have been domesticated in Asia? And the answer, Elaine, is no, never. And there are a number of reasons for that. One of the main reasons is that African animals in general show a much more disturbing propensity to homicide than do Asian animals. So, for example, an Asian elephant is just a lot easier to tame, in the same way that an Asian water buffalo is a lot easier to tame than a Cape buffalo, which we have out here. They are not easy to tame at all. In fact, they're almost untamable. And so they have never been domesticated. The second reason is that there's been no real point. I think if you'll find that elephants were domesticated for work in Asia, largely for carrying logs, and I suppose a little bit for transportation. Out here, people have been far more concentrated on grief, Bryan. Look what's going through there. There is another elephant through over to the right-hand side. He's throwing a tree around, but he's stopped now. Yes, he's just in there. So local people out here have never had the kind of need to domesticate elephants or to take the risk to domesticate elephants, because there wasn't, there'd never been kind of logging and moving of trees and the kind of work that elephants do in Asia culturally over here. That said, they have been domesticated, and people still do domesticate them. There's a lot of controversy about domesticating them and using them for things like safaris. In fact, a huge amount of fairly negative controversy around that. I mean, I've never been around an organization that does that, so I can't really comment. But to say that an African elephant, of course, is much more hungry than its Indian or Asian cousin, because they live in a much more nutrient-poor area. They have to eat more frequently. So in a nutrient-poor area like this, the elephant's got to process a tremendous amount of food to get enough into its body, whereas an Asiatic elephant lives in an area of relatively recent volcanic activity, so the soils are richer, so the food's richer, and that means that they're then able to eat a lot. Sorry, I'm just listening again. They get to eat a lot less, and so they have more time in the day to do some work, which these chaps don't. Sneak a little bit forward. And Leopold, you want to know if Indian elephants could survive out here, if they need a wet climate. I don't think they'd survive out here for very long at all. I think the food would not be rich enough. I think it isn't wet enough. They've got much smaller ears, which means that they can't cool their brains in the same way these guys can. And so they need a lot more shade than we have over here. That's a very pretty shot, Bryan.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very artistic of you.
Oh, thank you.
You are a bit of an artiste.
Mm.
Yeah. So Leopold, no, I don't think they'd survive out here. The other thing they wouldn't survive is the amount of, like you say, is the amount of sun. And if you look at some of the pictures of Asiatic elephants, they've got an almost leucism, semi-albinism, if you like. They often don't have nearly the same amount of melanin in the skin that these elephants do. And so they've got pink and white skins, which I think is just a function of the fact that they live in the shade, and so they don't really need to have these very dark grey skins. Whereas out here, that kind of skin would burn, I think, very quickly. And that's not to say, I mean, India gets tremendously hot in most parts of India, and not so much up in the north. But it does get very hot in the south, but there's a lot more shade and there's a lot more water than there is here. Of course, we all know the story, or many of us know the story of Hannibal, the Carthaginian general who managed to domesticate some African elephants and then take them over the Alps on his attempted invasion of Rome. So I think he was the first recorded in history to do it. I've no doubt, given that, back then labor laws weren't quite what they are now, I've no doubt many, many people lost their lives in the effort to domesticate those elephants. Slavery was all the rage back then, of course. Now, Catherine, we're watching an elephant there using his trunk and his tusks to break off twigs. He's sort of wedging the twigs and branches between the tusks and the trunk, and that obviously puts strain on the tusks, and you want to know whether or not it hurts if those tusks break. Well, there is an enormous nerve that goes about 2/3 of the way down the tusk, so I imagine it must hurt like nothing on earth when these tusks break off. I think much the same as if you have a tooth knocked out of the front of your jaw. It hurts like hell. And you do find elephants with recently broken tusks and where it's bleeding, and you can see that they are in tremendous pain and distress. So yes, I think it hurts a lot. I don't think it happens that often, but it does happen from time to time. I also think the closer to the tip that it breaks, the less the pain will be. But the closer to that rather large nerve that it breaks, the worse it will be. Another car coming up behind us. I'm just going to move forward. Just gather some momentum in old Jigger here. Nice mobile shots these, aren't they, Bryan? Ooh, let's head across to Sam. He's got something called a buck.
So we just managed to get a shot of that common duiker as it moves through the bush. I'm just going to reverse a little bit. Maybe it'll help us see it. We were so lucky to get it because it's so difficult to see a common duiker. Can you still see it there, Jeandre? Negative. It looks like it's gone. At least we managed to see the common duiker. It's often that we get to a sighting of a common duiker and next thing you know it's gone. So we managed to see it for a few seconds there. We've had quite an interesting morning already. I came down here and we found some lion tracks, and we saw that the lion tracks went into Buffelshoek, which is to our left here, and to our right is Jeandre, and we're heading towards Cheetah Plains again. But what we thought would be a good idea is have a look at Buffelshoek Dam. Stef has seen or found tracks of a male lion that's heading in an easterly direction from Cheetah Plains. So it could very well be that that male lion has come and stopped for a drink of water at the pan. And we've seen quite a few different animals there lately, from breeding herds of elephants to breeding herds of buffaloes. So maybe potentially that lion has been trailing a buffalo herd over the night. So we'll just go and have a look and see what might be crawling or walking around Buffelshoek Dam this morning. So, Siberia Zumi, well done, and thank you so much for getting that information about the mantis. So, sorry, I just forgotten the name of it as I was saying thank you. It was a feather antennaed mantis. That's it. Thank you, Jeandre. I was saying thank you before I said feather antenna mantis, which is Really, really cool. It's so awesome to learn something new. So thank you very much, Siberian Zumi. And I just want to let every viewer out there, I saw when we were doing a chat last night, myself and James and a few others, and at the end of it I said something and everyone was quite confused about what I said. What? Do you have some line tracks there? All right. So let's just have a look at this. We've got some line tracks here to our right. I'm going to try and show you. You can see one of the tracks there. So we are following up on line tracks that could potentially be going up to Buffelshoek Dam. The tracks do look slightly fresh, but they don't look like they're on-vehicle tracks when I look behind. So potentially it was a few days late, or actually it was driven over. We saw a tractor coming over a bit earlier. And we went to the hyena den just to let you know, to see if we could find any hyenas. And it seems that both those dens close to Aubrey's Road are inactive at the moment. Maybe they've changed dens. We're not too sure. We'll take a look again this evening to make sure that the hyenas are still there or they've moved dens. But just to update everyone on what I said at the end there of that thing last night, I said, check you around like a donut. That's what I said. So that just means I'll see you later. That's why my dad always just says it to me, and I know it's really silly. So I think it was Mina that was asking what that meant. So if you obviously imagine what a donut looks like, it's round, and my dad always says it to me, I check you around like a donut. So it's kind of stuck in my head. And then I said it last night. So that's what that meant. Didn't mean anything else. So we're following up on line tracks here. Let's just see if they're crossing into this road quickly. So there are no line tracks there. Let's take that road though, because they could have gone through the brush here and then gone towards the watering hole. So this is Buffelshoek West, this road here. So great, I'm finally knowing my roads after being here for a month or 6 weeks now. It's been an incredible few weeks. And it's just so nice to know the property a little bit better. Alright, let's see what we might be able to find lurking around here this morning. So we have a fire break that comes down here. So I'll just have a look also on the fire break to see if there are any tracks. No tracks there. Yes, we're not far from Buffelshoek watering hole. And I forgot to say, we saw a serval last night. And how cool is that? I just heard that on my comms that James found a serval for over 5 minutes. I've seen a sighting of a serval once, and it was for less than 3 seconds. I didn't even know if it was a serval, it was so quick. I'm pretty sure it was though. And then James had a 5-minute sighting with a serval last night. Anna Marie is saying Elvis is going to help us find these lines. Potentially, Anna Marie, Elvis will do that very, very trick. With that, let's go and see how others are doing out here in the bushveld this morning.
And you caught us in a bit of a maneuver over here. It's all good. We're in such thick bush on the banks of the Milwaukee drainage line here. And what Dave and I have come and have a look at is there's a nest here. There's a nest of 2 Wahlberg's eagles, but nests of birds are not exclusively for the use of those birds. Quite often the nests for birds are used by successive generations of birds of the same species, even the same pair, but also by other species. And quite often when a bird leaves a nest, especially birds that build nests year-round, what you find is that owls and a number of different birds would like to use that nest for their own purposes for nesting. So there's a Wahlberg's eagle's nest around here. There's also a vulture's nest, a white-backed vulture's nest. And I'm coming to see what is sitting on those nests at the moment. Not the traditional breeding times for those birds, but it's always a good idea to come and have a look at what's happening in hot real estate. So let's go through here. This big game path that we're on, and it was on this game path that we were trying to get to when you crossed to us. No harm done though. What a beautiful glade. We're on a bend in the Mulwati drainage line, and it seems like we've got a bit of an oxbow here. Now, what I mean by oxbow is if you have a look on this side here, you'll notice that there's a lot of sand. It looks like washed sand right here. And that tells me that at some point the Mulwati actually flowed here. And then if you go on this side, this is where the real Mulwati is. And you can see how deep it is right here. And we're standing on an alluvial bed. And I have no doubt that if we had to walk to the edge of this, we'll see that the Mulwati now has cut off this loop. Let me show you what it looks like in a picture. I'm not the world's greatest drawer. I'm probably about as good as what James is at drawing stuff. But basically, now let's do this. A meandering river will come along and it'll start to bend. And what happens is this bank starts getting cut away and this bank starts to be deposited on. And so gradually what happens is you have a river that starts to do this. And then it'll start to do this. And then eventually what it'll do is the river will break through here. And that is exactly what's happened here. We are standing about here, and what we're looking at on our right hand side is this bend that we're seeing in the river. It's being cut off. And you can see it quite clearly over there. If we turn around with Dave, we'll actually be able to see the river. And I can even show you in the distance, far down there, you'll see the gleaming white sand of the now Mulwati drainage line. That gleaming white sand that you see down there in the background. Let me put my finger on it. There we go. There we go. That is the current Mulwati drainage line. This that you're looking at here is the oxbow. And that's actually the first time I'm seeing it in this place. Makes sense. It's quite hilly here in this part of the park. And underlying this particular area is granite. And generally what happens is granite's a nice hard rock. Rivers that cut through this area tend to be cutting through quite straight. But when it hits a plain like this, there's a lot of deposits, a lot of clay deposits onto the river. You start getting this meandering effect. But let's go and have a look at this from the viewpoint. And see what we've got. We've got an old excavation here. Wow, it's pretty deep, eh? Let's see if we can see what made it without getting warthogged. So whenever you approach a hole in the ground like this, it's always a good idea to take, in this particular case, it's a piece of elephant dung, and then to announce yourself to a hole. No, didn't hear anything growling at me, so that means we can go stick our face into that hole. I mean, you're not 100% sure nothing's going to come out, but we're relatively sure that nothing's in residence, even though that's a pretty clear hole. You can have a look down that hole over there and you'll see that there's no spider webs that are inside that hole. And that means that something has brushed the spider webs out quite recently. The only tracks that I can see are some buffalo tracks. There's a buffalo, Cape buffalo. I noticed that from the very bovine look to that. The only other animal out here that has a hoof structure very similar to that is an eland, which we don't really find here. You find them in the park, but not really here. And then if you have a look over there, there's a slide mark. And that slide mark is what I think, you can have a look over here. That slide mark is what I think is brushed the spider webs away. No clear track. That could be anything from a porcupine to a civet to honey badger, that size. So porcupine, civet, honey badger, that is what I'm thinking made that. That is, obviously we need tracks to be able to give a positive idea of what it is. But for now, that's what I'm going to say. Brushed this hole away. It was of course excavated by an aardvark or ant bear. Other animals are just using it for their homes. Alright Dave, let's carry on going. Now, we did come here to look for some nests. And I'm looking. There's a tiny little bark spider here. And yes, we are still on our search for the nest, but I'm being sidetracked by all these little things. Dave, this is going to require some getting used to, but at the point of my finger is a bark spider. Now, what makes bark spiders so remarkable for me is the fact that this little bark spider looks like a thorn, and what that means is during the day she will, as soon as the sun starts to warm up where we are right now, this little spider will snip her anchor line on this branch. She will then gather up her web, snip the anchor line there, move off to one of these branches, gathering her silk with her, and then she'll eat all of her silk so that tonight she can use it again. Don't you find that amazing? I mean, the way that these animals reuse stuff is just incredible. She's an orb spider. She's a nocturnal orb spider. During the day she gathers up her web, hides out, looking like a thorn, looking like a thorn on a branch, eats her web, eats whatever food she's collected during the night, stays camouflaged. Ooh, I've got a frog in my throat. Stays camouflaged, and then redoes it again. Rinse, repeat for the next night. I don't really want to break her web, so Dave, it's going to require you to be a little bit athletic here. I think let's go around this bush. It's going to eat our legs. I'm still looking for these nests that we came in this area. Alright. And while we're doing that, I think it would be good for you to go through to James for an update.
3. Gobble gobble.
That's Bryan telling me we're live, everyone. Gobble, gobble. Just do it properly, quickly. There we go. So that you think there might be a turkey. I'm basically doing some detective work here because there is a hole in the ground. Now, a hole in the ground in and of itself is not the most fascinating thing in the world, but I think this was dug either by a honey badger or by a porcupine. And what it was looking for is the following. I can't even remove them. It's these roots. And I think the roots probably come from these combretum trees here. They are the most common trees, the combretum apiculatum or red bush willow. And their roots spread far and wide underneath the trees. And I'm fairly sure that that's what this animal was after. There could also have been some tubers. But what it looks less and less honey badgerish to me and much more like a porcupine, which is a largely herbivorous rodent. And I think there may have been a tuber here as well, or just the roots of these trees. So that's quite interesting. It's freshly excavated last night, and I mean, I don't think I've seen a porcupine since I've been at Jeandre. We find their tracks quite often, we find their quills every so often, and we find evidence where they have been excavating and digging. Bryan, do you remember what this is called?
The serrated lovegrass.
The sword-toothed loved grass, and that is a warning to us all, of course, that love is a double-edged sword. That's my philosophical lesson to you for the day. Yeah, you come on safari and you think you're just going to learn animals, and instead you get the whole life lessons. It must be so enriching. I'm, of course, being entirely sarcastic. Ignore any advice I give you on the front of philosophy or relationships. Now, we came along the road, the Gowrie Main Road, where we last saw you, and there were tracks of a female leopard going down south, back into Little Gowrie or Torchwood. Now, maybe she's got a kill here. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's going to bring those babies back here. We're going to do a loop around this block and just see if perhaps that is the case. And we'll pop around to Treehouse Dam over there and see what happens there. Hello, Natasha. You say, what is the most valuable lesson that I've learned as a safari guide? I'm going to have to split that up into two, because as a safari guide, of course, is slightly different from what I'm doing now. A safari guide, of course, is largely got guests on the back of the vehicle, and from what I'm doing now, I'm staring down the barrel of a camera and I'm talking to many of you around the world. Now, although absolutely this is a recreated virtual safari, if you like, and that's what it is, the job is essentially different in that you're talking to many, many more people. That brings with it a certain amount of, shall we say, temptation to the ego. And the greatest lesson I've learned in the last year, and I've now been here, what's the date today? 13.
Friday the 13th.
I've been here now 51 weeks, everybody. 51 weeks I've been here. And the greatest lesson I've learned about being here is to try and keep hold of one's ego, to try and be as humble as possible. I fail sometimes at this, but that is certainly the greatest lesson I've learned, far more than, well, anything about the bush. And I've learned a massive amount in the last 51 weeks, especially given that there are so many more people contributing and coming on the experience. And so we're learning so much together. I've learned far more doing this job than I have doing the actual traditional safari job, where you've got 6 people behind you. Because then you've got only the impressions of 6 people. Those 6 people are often only out here for sort of 2 nights, 2 or 3 nights at a time. And that means that inevitably, when you get your next guest, they're all going to discuss exactly the same things as the guest you've had before. Whereas out here, while that is the case, we do often rehash stuff, very interesting things, and because we have more regular viewers and because people can get more in-depth into it, we have a lot more in-depth discussions, and that means that the questions that I get asked are often I don't know, and I have to go and research them, and that's just a really wonderful part of doing the job that I do now. Thank you very much, Natasha, for that. You'll see that I've removed my woolly hat. My ears are not cold anymore because the sun is out. Now here is Treehouse Lake, in which there doesn't seem to be a vast array of life, Bryan. See that? No? I'm going to drive up onto the lake shore and see. We'll survey the vast expanse of the lake shore, Bryan, and its feeder torrent. There we are. The ubiquitous serrated hinged terrapins, I bet you would be able to find their little heads sticking up. There is one, hoping to find some sun. Of course, the water won't be that cold because it's very shallow and the mud will retain a certain amount of heat underneath. We've got a couple of birds here. Well, not so much there, but on the trees, all flying away. There was a virtual starling, it's now gone up. Bryan's found some hornbills. I love the song of hornbill in the morning, isn't that lovely? That's brilliant camera work. And just, you might be able to hear them around us going. That's what hornbill sounds like. It's all rather peaceful here, Bryan. So my logic, just to keep you informed, because in case it wasn't obvious, tracks of the leopard go south across the road there. Now, what she has been doing is basically coming onto Jeandre, killing something, hanging it in a tree, and then going to fetch the little ones. And I wonder if that's not what she's done now. So we'll just keep a check around here. Lex came down one of the roads that we turned off. I expected there to be tracks there, and there weren't any tracks on that road. So we'll do a little loop around here. Maybe we'll be lucky, but no doubt there will be some kind of magnificence to have a look at, regardless. Be it a small mantis, or be it a very large elephant. The buffalo will come down as the heat builds today. I think it's going to be a nice warm day like it was yesterday. Alrighty, let's head back across to Sam. I'm not sure where he is. He's probably on Cheetah Plains by now, so let's go and find out what's going on there.
So you've had an interesting morning with James talking about the double-edged sword of love. That's interesting. I hope you've enjoyed listening to the wisdom that comes from James. We are now driving on Cheetah Cut Line. We were following up on line tracks. One was going in a westerly direction down towards Buffelshoek, and the other one was actually heading in the other direction. So it was all quite confusing, but they did look quite old. And we went and searched the perimeter of Buffelshoek Dam, and there didn't seem to be any tracks. So we looked in those two different roads to see if there were any tracks in there, and there was nothing. So it could be that those lines have crossed off into Buffelshoek Dam, but we are continuing down Cheetah Plains just in case those tracks might pop back up. And if they do, sorry, not Cheetah Plains, Cheetah Cut Line, and if they do pop up, we shall follow them a bit further. But we are now just going, and we're on the edge of Torchwood and Jeandre, and we're going to see if potentially we might be able to find a cheetah on the plains this morning, or a jackal. I've told Bryan and everyone that as soon as I see a jackal, I might just get out and dance and be very happy. So if we see a jackal this morning, I'll give you a handstand dance. How about that, eh? Let's have something to look forward to if we find a jackal. Jeandre will probably join us. Is that right, Jeandre? Yeah, so we're going to do our very best to see if we can find a jackal this morning. And that's why I'm going out into the open areas to see if something might just show its face. I haven't seen a jackal since I've been here, neither an ostrich. So those are my key concerns this morning. Of course, if those lines do show their tracks again, we shall track them into wherever they might be and say good morning to them. But there were quite a few of them on our property about 2-3 days ago, and it is more than likely that they've crossed over. And I say that because crossed over to another property, and I say that because it has been raining recently. It rained about 3 days ago, and that rain would have washed the scent away from their scent, and so they've probably been demarcating their scent again and going around their whole territory, which is quite big, and to tell other dominant male lions that this is their territory. We know that one of the Birminghams have actually lost their brother, so they're going to be acting even more stronger as a brother, as a coalition. So we're off to Cheetah Plains. Are you ready to find a jackal? You ready, Jeandre? Jeandre is ready, I'm ready. I hope all of you guys are too. Also, on that note, I think it was yesterday, I'm not sure if Marcel from Peter Maritzburg is on live TV at the moment, but the fishing Pell's owl, you wanted to know about the fishing Pell's owl, and the fishing Pell's owl is mainly found on the Sabi and Sand River, so you don't find them in these areas where it's quite dry. They're like the big ponds, they're like big watering holes where they can dive and will collect any kind of fish. So you mainly find them on the actual rivers themselves, the river systems. So hopefully one day we might be able to find, if we're lucky, a Pell's fishing owl. But it's something I've just learned about, and I'm excited to see that one day. I'm also quite excited to see if we can find an owl this evening. So I know James Richard wants to build his birding list with owls and whatnot, and I'm sure there's quite a few of you that would also like to see an owl. So we're going to do our very best to see what might bring. There's a beautiful looking waterbuck that's in the sunlight there. It's quite a sharp angle for Jeandre to get, so I'm just going to move to a position where you can see that waterbuck through that grass. It actually looks very cool with the sun catching the grass. So that is a male waterbuck. Look at those horns. They are rather large. You tell that that is a waterbuck because of that round circle on the back there that helps us identify it, and that is used as a, well, when they're walking through the bushveld, the youngsters can follow their parents by having a look at that circle at the back. So we saw quite a few of them last night. We saw, myself and Bryan were driving back from the plains, must have seen about 15. And the female's just there with him, just to the right, by a tree, by a marula tree there. You'll see. And if I'm not mistaken, there could be another youngster there with her. Let's have a look. I know that could have been her tail just moving. Or is it? No. It is a little calf. I just saw the little tail flickering. This. Oh, sweet. Let's see what it'll look like when it comes out. It's just hiding from us. I just saw that little tiny tail flicker. So let's move a little bit forward. I'm sorry about that, Jeandre. I know it shakes the camera when I do that. She's doing a very good hop. The little calf is doing a great job at hiding. Can't see it at the moment.
Dixon, come in.
There we go. There it is.
Go next. Your Dix, my radio was down. Anything further picked up?
So
No,
there is-
negative, no changes.
Please excuse the radio. I'm just going to turn it down. So there's the young waterbuck. Oh, there she is. Very nervous. That was awesome. So we managed to see the male, the female, and the young calf. It was hiding behind the tree from us. So we really had to look to see that little young waterbuck. And what's important is, you know, the waterbuck likes to stay not so far away from water. And we've driven, often when I drive this road, I see a number of waterbucks. So there must be quite a few watering holes here at Torchwood. And I'm so excited to one day be able to drive this property to learn a little bit more about what might be here. But there's also an impala. So we also can see a male impala just over there. There's an impala. So we've got a waterbuck and an impala this morning. It looks like a male. So we're still in the rutting season, so we can still hear the males fighting against each other and making some loud growling kind of sounds, which you can hear it now. So behind those bird calls, can you hear that sound of the impala? So it's in the distance there. I'm not sure if you were able to hear that, but what we'll do is we'll drive a little on, and if we manage to see them, we'll stop and have a look at them making that noise. That's a very, very cool noise. That noise will probably only be going on for the next couple of weeks while those males are in their rutting season. See if we can see some more impalas making those noises. So I did drive to Cheetah Plains and last night, and I went to go see if we could find Nkanyeni or even cheetahs, but we ended up seeing so many different breeding herds and dazzles of zebra. It was awesome. Let's go at the moment to see how James is doing. out on Juma. We'll get to Cheetah Plains and see what we might be able to find.
Steph, we just heard it on the radio that there could be lions close to Twin Dams. We're on the road that heads directly to Twin Dams, so these buffalo might be an endangered species fairly soon. Anyway, they're having a bit of a cud chew. I mean that literally and figuratively. They're sort of genuinely chewing the cud. You can see them doing that. And they're also probably just sort of chatting about life in general. They always look slightly morose, especially when, like this one, they have that sort of Roman nose. You can see how round his nose is there. And they always look to me like that they are the slowest possible kind of movers. And they groan and struggle along when they move, but it is astonishing how quickly they can move if they have to. If lions were to come around here, these chaps would react with an incredible speed, and their strength is still absolutely formidable. And although they look decrepit and old, if you look at their muscle tone, if you look at the incredible kind of amount of flesh there is on that animal and the lack of bone sticking out, it's an indicator that he's in excellent condition and he's not to be trifled with, despite the fact that he looks like a sort of morose homeless person. Do you think he looks like a morose homeless person, Bryan?
To a degree.
To a degree. Oh, and listen to the robin calling just behind there. I think that's a, you know what, I think that's a white-throated robin. A white-throated or a bearded robin. What a lovely call. Isn't that lovely? So we'll go along to where Steph is sort of heading, and we'll see if we can't pick up any of those lion tracks. I'm just quickly scanning to see if I can find that robin. You only find these robins in the drainage lines like this, so they're almost impossible to actually see. You just hear them singing gently. He's got an itchy forehead, Bryan, you see that? Oh! Phew. See him sigh out there. And look at the oxpecker on his back. See how it's pressed against him? And pressed against him there with all its feathers puffed out because it's cold. He's using the buffalo's warmth to warm himself up. He looks very, very satisfied with himself. He's found himself a hot water bottle that is many, many times larger than he is. That's so cool. What a wonderful little peaceful scene here. And he does look like he's well fed, but he's not so much well fed, he's just puffed out his feathers to try and stay warm. And Bryan, I don't know if this is going to be a complete waste of time, but on the dead tree there, across the way, you can see a crested barbet on the far left-hand side, just moving around. I'm more showing that to you so that you can say, "Wow, James, how did you spot that?" Go on, do it. There you are. Stony silence. You can see who's from the back of the car.
I wasn't even sure if that was the right bird.
But it is. They are so scruffy. Them and the tawny eagle. All the other birds here seem to take great care of their appearance. These chaps and the tawny eagles are very, very scruffy. Black and white and orange and yellow and red. Beautiful colours. And they're largely frugivorous, in other words, they eat mainly fruit. But of course, once we go into the winter, not much fruit around, so they must eat anything they can. And I don't think it would be too much to say that they will eat basically anything other. I don't think they'll eat anything vegetation-wise, because I don't think they'll have the digestion for it, but pretty much anything else they'll take during the course of the long winter. And I used to, when I lived in town, in Johannesburg, before I came back out here about 2 years ago, I used to love the crested barbets because I'd eat some pawpaw in the morning, that's papaya, those of you who don't say pawpaw, and I'd put them outside. We had this little flower bed outside my bedroom window, and I'd put it outside there, and these birds would come and fight over the pawpaw in the winter time. And there was always just a little touch of the wilderness that came down to roost, and they'd stand there going, because that's what their call is. It's not a particularly attractive call, but that's what they do, and it would always make me smile as the traffic head around outside, and there was this little cocoon of wilderness just inside my own home. Is that a touching story, Bryan?
It was absolutely incredible.
You may wipe away the tear
I have
from your
already.
left eye.
I have. Thank you, James.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, shall we move on and find a lion? Ow. It's not what a lion sounds like, of course. While we do that, Samuel seems to be the waterbuck whisperer of the day. He has a waterbuck.
Welcome back. We are with some more waterbuck as we enter Cheetah Plains. It's quite a large group of them, a few females, and there seems to be one large male here. What we're looking at now is a female, and sexual dimorphism is that the male has long big horns, as we saw a little bit earlier with the male, and the females do not. So they like to eat stuff such as grass, sometimes leaves and fruit. And they drink water quite regularly. As I said, they'll only really go around 12 kilometers out. Is that a warthog? So Jeandre, while we were looking at some beautiful looking waterbuck, we just spotted some warthogs there. Great spot there, Jeandre. Have a look at those tusks there. So often the warthog will go down into a burrow backwards, and that'll be facing out. So that will be the protection for the waterbuck. As soon as, well, not the waterbuck, this small little warthog. There's a little youngster on the right, but it could be a female. You can tell by the amount of warts that it has on its face. At the moment I can't quite see how many warts. 2 sets of warts I think means that it's a female. I'll have a look. But the warthog specializes in eating some of the tubers under the ground. So we'll sometimes look like it's on its knees as it rubs. There we go. Jeepers, that was lucky. I think we just saw that there. It was either doing that or scratching. But it'll use almost like it's on its knee, and it rubs the tubes in the ground, and then it will then eat those tubers. Right next to the waterbuck. Incredible sighting. Waterbuck truly are beautiful, beautiful animals, and the female is quite a bit lighter than that of the male, probably around 205 to 250 kgs. The male gets up to 250 and 270 kilograms. So there we go. It's another good shot of the warthog. Great filming from Jeandre. So this is the start of our adventure through Cheetah Plains this morning. And the warthog and the waterbuck are both preyed upon by the cheetah. So the cheetah would eat both these species here. So that's what we're going to go looking for this morning, potentially to find a cheetah walking through the Great Plains. But this is so cool to have a warthog come so close to us. It's really not often that we have this. There we go. See how it gets on, it looks like it gets on its knees there, but it doesn't really have knees, it's more like cartilage. And it's trying to collect the tubers under the ground. So, in context to what they're doing now as well, they also start making these little holes in the ground. So sometimes you're walking around the bush, you find these little holes in the ground that would have been made by little warthogs, the warthogs. And over time, those little holes get bigger and bigger as they fill up with water, and then other antelope come and drink from it, and buffaloes come and begin to sit in it. And just because of the interaction of a warthog within an ecosystem, it has created a watering hole that then provides to a much diverse range of species, all the way down to the tiny insects, to the greater animals. So the warthog is an incredible key player in the ecosystem out here. And I'm not sure if you get boar in America. I know that I was studying boar in England when I was studying there last year. Quite similar looking to the boar species. It stands behind a combretum, which is a bush willow. Can't believe how close they are to us right now. You can really see it looking like it's on its knees there. Have a look at it as it grazes there. You can just see one set of warts there. So the warthog kneels like that in order to get down closer to the ground. So it does that to get closer to the ground, to get to the tubes and the roots that are beneath the soil. It helps. There we go. And now you can actually see it happening in action. Fascinating. It's not often you get to sit with one of these. So I think this is a female, purely because the youngsters with it. There we go, it's right in front of our vehicle now. It's a family of them. So 2 piglets. So Catherine on YouTube is explaining she likes it when she watches the warthog run, because she lifts up her tail, or their tails, when they're running away. And that is actually a very good observation that you've made there, because that helps the piglets see where the mother or the other ones are running to. It's like a little signal, follow me sign, which is very cool to see that. And so the sexual dimorphism, which is the difference between male and female, is males are large and have 2 pairs of warts and longer tusks. So the male has 2 pairs. What I saw from this female that looked here, she only had 1. The female tusks are shorter and they only have 1 pair of warts. And in the breeding season, 1 to around 8 are born from September to December, after a gestation period of around 6 months or so. And that period, September, December, is when the rains start to come back. So it makes it a lot easier for them to raise piglets when the new shoots and the new grasses comes with the rains. So I just thought I would show you another picture of the warthog. This is what we've been looking at over here. And what I also want to show you is you can actually really see the difference between a male and a female here. So you can see with the male, it's got 2 sets of warts on its face there. 2 sets of warts, and on the female, it only has 1. And the tusks are quite a bit smaller on the female, as you would have noticed. So very, very cool. And they are diurnal animals, and they form family or bachelor groups. So sometimes you see a couple of males walking around, sometimes you watch the families walking around. What an incredible sighting we just had here with warthogs. To come so close to our vehicle. Snoop. Is that Snoop? Snoop would like to know, that's a very cool name, Snoop, would like to know how old do I think those piglets are? Well, just looking at the size of them from next to our vehicle here, I would have said that those were born in the rainy season last year, around September to December last year. So I reckon they're just over six months old. Yeah, that's my guesstimate. So we're off to go and find this jackal and these ostriches and these many cheetahs if we can find them. If not, we might just see some elephants. For the time being, let's go and see how Stef is doing walking along the bush. Or around the bush, rather.
Oh, welcome back to this bushwalk segment with myself and Dave. We have been hightailing it everywhere today, I must be honest. We've come down following some male lion tracks all the way from camp, all the way to Twin Dams at the moment. And as I'm busy looking at you, I've just spotted what we are aiming for. Right here is the male lion that we've been tracking. Now that track doesn't look too fresh, but I can guarantee you that track is about as fresh as they come. Myself and Dave have been literally walking on eggshells for the last 10 minutes or so, thinking that we're going to bump into this guy at any moment now. But he's obviously been onto this game path and he's crossed out south from here, round about where Karula and her cubs always like to hang out. But that's not too much of a problem. Alright, so what we can do is, this is definitely one of those Birmingham boys. I'm actually convinced that this is one of the one that likes to hang around on his own. And he was lying up in Jeandre the whole of yesterday. This track is fresh enough for him to do that. Give an example of how big this paw is. That's my hand. And you can see that signal sideways.
Now, I know you've just been with Stef, and what I'm going to do is get Bryan to point the camera where Stef is standing. He's just over the other side of the dam wall there. And he thought the lion track was heading right into this area. He said they walked into this dam, and he can't find where they came out again. So we're just kind of doing a look. There he is there. This is a difficult signal area, so that's probably why he doesn't have any signal. And that's David, of course, you can see, with the large pole coming out of the back of his head. And so the lion could be anywhere around here. Now, it is important, of course, to note that a lion is actually one of the least intimidating things to see on foot if he's not irritated. If he's irritated, well, then he's terrifying. But most likely with male lions, quite apart from being the kind of apex natural predator out here, they will run like a startled rodent at the sight of a man on foot, especially a man, of course, of the stature of Stefan Dave. Anyway, so he's going to just check for the tracks around the pan here, and we're just doing a loop. There's a road here, and I'm trying to see if I can see any tracks of his coming out. And of course, if you're on foot, you can't quite follow an area quite as easily as you can in a vehicle, or you can't do it as quickly. There was a big roadblock there, and then you can see that elephants across the roadblock. Very nicely there. So we're just going to look underneath the bushes here. There could be a lion lying in under any of them. We're going to watch the road for some kind of tracks. We don't see any tracks at the moment. Very interesting that he's come into this area and doesn't seem to have left it again. Now, of course, a lion is very good at doing very little. And So they could have walked, he could have walked into this area, got tired halfway through the night and thought, let me go and have a snooze. And then he would have lain down somewhere secure, maybe under the bush. But those lions, of course, are so confident they can easily just lie down in the open. So we'll just drive around here, this fire break area. Now we'll just, if I don't look you in the eye, everyone, it's because I'm just making sure that the tracks don't cross the road here. I suspect that he may have popped over the damn wall. Alright, while we're looking here, let's go across to Sam. He's got a little steenbok to show you.
So we have just come across a steenbok. This morning we were lucky enough to see a common duiker, and now we're seeing the other smaller antelope here at the Cheetah Plains. It is the steenbok. Look, you can quite clearly see that it doesn't have horns on top of its head. So it is a female. So the male might very well be around here because they are monogamous. And so it might be another special day for looking at antelope today, because we saw a southern reedbuck here with Jeandre. But just looking at the steenbok, it hasn't moved a muscle. It hasn't even moved its ear. It looks like a statue in the bush there, because it hasn't moved, and I wonder why. Maybe it's seen something. Maybe it's just staring at us, as Jeandre just pointed out to me before you came. But there could be a potential that it's stopping and being dead still, and that is the one characteristic that a steenbok does. It acts like a stone, the stone buck, in the English name for that, where it will get into a position where it can be as still as possible, and that's one of its forms of defense. Let's see if it even moves its ear, because it's not moving its ear for us right now. Potentially it's looking at something. Let's just move it a little bit forward. It's incredible. Have you seen this before, Jeandre? See a steenbok stand so still. It must be because of us, I think. I think this what might be happening. I think it saw us, and it doesn't realize that we are looking at it, and it's looking at us, trying to be still. That could be it, because it's really not moving. This is amazing. It's really incredible. I wonder where the male is. Still not moving. This is really nice because you can quite clearly see all the features of a steenbok. You can see it's quite a small antelope, first of all, and if you have a look at the face, you'll see that there is some glands just beneath the eye there. That will help mark its scent out here in the bush. And those ears will move around in different directions to collect any of the sound that might be happening. So it looks like she's trying to hear what's going on ahead of her. But what's interesting is that it almost looks like the eye is looking at us. The steenbok's eyes look, oh, there we go, I just saw a little bit of movement. But the ear is facing in another direction, and that's what's got me interested, is the ear isn't facing us. It's actually facing in another direction. So let's just move slightly forward from this statue steenbok and see potentially what it might be hiding from. So no reaction to the start of our car. Let's move slightly forward. There, it's now, have a look, it's now looking at us. Hello. And it is a male. We couldn't see it from the side on. It was a male, so it is a male. You could quite clearly see those horns there. Couldn't see it when the ears were covering. But it came... So we've just had the most magical sighting, or we're still having this sighting. Let's go and see how Stef is doing out in the bush. I think he could be with one of the largest animals. We are with one of the smallest antelopes, and we'll see maybe if this steenbok is looking at something.
Isn't it amazing that you can watch a steenbok as closely as what you've been doing? I just think it's incredible. They're very tough animals to actually get on film and sitting still. So I hope it was sitting still for you. But look at what we found. Myself and Dave have left those male lion tracks not only because they crossed over south, but because we were having such bad signal problems in the area. And we decided to just amble into an area I've very infrequently been. We're probably about 500 or 600 meters away from a road at the moment. And because of that, we never see this place on normal game drives. The only way you can access this is by a vehicle. But just have a look. This is a hotel, for lack of a better word, for elephant. And it's underneath or in the shade of this massive tamboti tree. And just have a look at all the elephant footprints and dung and places where they've slept. It's just carpeted in it. You can actually see it has a very fresh pile of elephant dung, so it was actually used last night. Maybe not last night, this would be yesterday afternoon. Now how I'm going to test it is you break... Ooh! This still has body heat, so definitely last night. Gee whiz. That's rare to feel. So the evenings are quite cool here. It was only about 50 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday. And I'm holding my hand up here. It's easily 30 degrees centigrade, which is, I'm judging, probably about 90. Dave, you need to come feel this, man. Try and put the lens there and see if it'll fog up. It's hot. So it's not steaming because it's not cold enough for that just yet. But definitely, as I'm feeling it, it's getting a bit cooler. And that's how you test how fresh it is. Yeah, let's go and see this one. This one's even got an accompanying pile of... So at least 3 elephants were here. You can see this was a female elephant. And how I know it's the dung from a female elephant is that the urine is very close to the dung and at the back of the dung. If it was a male, it would be in front of the dung and quite often with a little excavation in the front, almost like when you've put a hose pipe on the ground and let it run. So this is a female elephant. You can see from the sticks there's a branch. And definitely from literally a couple of hours ago. Not even, I'd say within the hour. That one's a bit colder than that one. Woo. So we got to watch out here for elephants. But just have a look, this is where they slept. Elephants can sleep standing. These ones are lying down. Amazing, eh? It's quite nice. I like these little things. Anyway, let's carry on going and see if we can find these ellies in a safe place. Oh, Justin's asked me a nice question this morning. Justin, good morning firstly. Secondly, Justin wanted to know, does an elephant have ticks? Because an elephant's skin is quite tough and quite thick. And Justin, you know, in any other sleeping place, you look at giraffe or buffalo, rhinoceros, even lion, where they lie down, you will more than likely find some ticks. But elephants are remarkably tick-free. Elephants do have pests that pest them. You do find some flies that will suck the blood from elephants. But I, in my life, have never seen an ectoparasite, a parasite that's on the outside of an elephant. And I've seen elephants close up. We've darted a few elephants here over the years, and I've been privileged enough to be part of that darting process. And even in the folds behind their ears and right up in their groin areas, we don't have any ticks. I've never found a tick. You do sometimes find worms and endoparasites in their dung, but it's quite rare to find an ectoparasite, a big tick. I'm sure that there are some ticks out here that will live on elephant, but me personally, ectoparasites stop at about hippo and rhinoceros size that don't like elephants, mainly because of exactly what you've observed. Their skin is very thick, up to 13 centimeters in some places. That's this much, 1.5 to 2 inches thick in some areas. That's an elephant's skin, and for a parasite to get through that, they'd probably have to be about as big as a Hardidar ibis, or something like that. Hope that answered your question there, man. All right. Now we're going to carry on with these game paths here. I want to keep a close eye on this little drainage line. I love this little particular drainage line simply because it doesn't have a road anywhere close to it. There's no ways that you can access this particular drainage line. And so it ends up for me being a bit of a gem, undiscovered. You don't know what's here, what's lurking around the next corner, and that's always quite exciting. Ooh, got my dose of fly coming through there. You'll notice as I'm walking, I'm trying my best. Watch out for the warthog hole there, Dave. Dave almost tripped into a warthog hole. We'll show you quickly what it looks like. Just from the side. So never approach a warthog hole from the front. Always approach it from the side. And if you can, throw something down there to let the visitors or let the inhabitants know that you are here. They seem to have left for the morning, thankfully. You'll notice as I'm walking, I'm not stepping on all the branches. I'm trying to avoid vegetation. And when you walk, you always walk with the outside of your foot in. And I'll show you as I walk off here how you walk. You step over branches, outside of the foot. I'm obviously overdoing it at the moment, or over-exaggerating it, and off your toe. So it's a step, a plant, and then a over. And so you walk, keeping it quiet. And the reason why you step like that is in case you step on a stick, your full weight is not on it just yet. So that you step, step, and that way you're walking literally as quietly as what you can walk. So making sure we're not stepping on any sticks, scanning everything. And trying to just aim for the sandy patches. And that's how you walk in the bush. And after a while, you actually walk quite, you walk quite quietly after a while in the bush. You get used to the way that you step through the bush. I must say, it doesn't do anything for the wear and tear on your shoes though. You go through shoes here like it's no fashion. I've just warned Dave of there being another excavation here. We just want to be wary of. And while we're busy having a look at that, Saberia Zumi has asked if there's any plants with some vine-like appendages where we are. Oh, Saberia, let's have a look. The best way to look is obviously in thickets like that. The best way to look for vines is in a thicket like that. So let's just walk there and go and have a look and see if we can find it for you. So, yes, we have one here. That there is a plant that looks like it's a bit of a creeper. No, that's a mistletoe, so that's not going to work. Let's see if we've got another one this side. So not on this Gymnosporia Siberia, unfortunately not on that one, but we'll carry on looking for you. Seeing if we can find one. I've got the early morning sun in my eyes at the moment. I love these groves of tambwetis. These tambweti thickets are so peaceful at this time of the day. But going from the peace and tranquility of a tambweti thicket over to James, who I have no doubt has some quirky comment to make.
We're also being fairly peaceful and tranquil, everyone. We did find tracks of Karula, as I said, going across the way. We came back to check if they went back again. They don't seem to have. But she might have killed inside Djuma, and she might go and fetch those babies sometime during the day and perhaps bring them back towards Djuma. We're going to head towards Arathusa now, see what we can find. This guy is in a tearing rush to get somewhere important. Aye! Aye! Says there's nothing going on at Arathusa, but that's okay, we'll go and have a look anyway. Maybe we'll find shadow. Yes, Bryan is fist pumping. Pump your fist, Bryan.
I'm pumping it.
Yeah.
I'm pumping it up.
So that's the plan. Of course, you heard that the male lion that Stef was tracking did actually cross south, which was very unkind of him. But now what's interesting is I've been listening on the Game Drive radio, of course, during the course of the morning, and on Buffelshoek there seems to be quite a lot of activity with the lions. Two Birmingham males seem to have come across the Talamati females last night and may have been trying to mate with one of them. Now, as we well know, with these Birminghams, they haven't been particularly tolerant of females who haven't accepted their advances. And what you'll find is that although those Talamatis are supposedly still under the influence or under the auspices of the Salati males, you might find that they're kind of accepting mating advances from the big Birminghams in order to sort of placate them, because we know that those Birminghams have been very nasty to lionesses in this area of late. Right, we're now on Arathusa, everybody. Can you feel the difference? Very the same. All exactly the same underlying geology. The only really different spot of our traversing, oh, I mean, every little bot's got micro differences, but on a macro level, the only really different spot is the spot where Sam is on Cheetah Plains at the moment. It's got a very large soda clearing that extends down south into Mala Mala. Why that should have featured there, I'm not sure. But there's also that little bit of red kind of ferric or ferrous soil we have up near the northern side of Cheetah Plains as well. Let me just get an update on the... Oh, I can't do that now. One second. We'll just keep driving for a little while. I think the first place we'll go, pop is towards the Arathusa airstrip. We'll go as far south as we can on Arathusa and just see if there aren't any shadow tracks. I think it's actually quite a good thing that nobody's been seeing her of late. I think she's stashed her little ones on Hoffman's. Not many people go on there unless there's a confirmed sighting. And so I think she's stashed them just off to the east of where we are now. We're not allowed to go there. These guys, the Arathusa dudes, can go there, but unless there's an established sighting, you know, they've got so many other places to go, they won't necessarily go there. So I think she's probably okay. If she had lost those cubs, I think she'd be being seen, you know, as regularly as she was, up and down this road, all the way on Djuma. So I think she's still okay. So we'll see. Otherwise, a fairly quiet morning out in Bryan. We did see one elephant while you were away, but it ran off to the south. It was part of that same herd that we had earlier. Hello, Betty Sleep. You say that you enjoy my raptures over the joys of driving over things like elephant dung, at least buffalo dung, which of course is a rare pleasure. It's like popping bubble wrap. You say, what would leave me speechless? No, I think there are many things out here that leave me speechless. Mostly it's things of great beauty. An incredible sunset or sunrise often leaves me fairly speechless. A very unusual animal behavior leaves me fairly speechless. Some of the questions I get asked leave me fairly speechless as well, either from my own ignorance or from the sort of fascinating place from which these questions come. That serval last night almost rendered me speechless. Bryan, have you ever been rendered speechless? Out here, by the wilderness?
I don't know. I'm not too sure.
I tend to start getting quite vociferous when I see things that excite me.
I'm pretty quiet out here the whole time. So.
Yes, it's pretty quiet out here this morning, isn't it? Yes, lots of chondritum, lots of marula, termite mounds. Very nice. Let's have a stop here and a bit of a listen. Watch in the way it tracks. The other thing we can do, Bryan, of course, is have a look at this tree. Because trees, as we know, are very reliable. They don't go anywhere. They're always here, always our friends.
They don't run from you either.
They don't run away, no. They're not difficult to track. Now, this particular tree is interesting because it has been pushed over by elephants. Now, what I'd like you to notice here is that the elephants come and they push a tree like this over, and I mean, I don't know why they would have pushed this over. They don't seem to have eaten anything out of it. But they push them over, and it creates a whole suite of different habitat for species underneath. Now, if we move the tree and try not to get spiked on the leg by it, you'll see very important grasses starting to grow. This is one of them here, and it's called guinea grass. And this guinea grass has lost all its seeds. They will have been planted around this dead log and underneath this tree. And without the shade provided by these trees here, this grass wouldn't grow at all. So you've got to be very careful. I mean, a lot of these areas bush clear. Without these sort of little habitats that are created by the elephants, which you don't get if you bush clear an area, grasses like this, which are incredibly important to grazing species, well, they just don't occur, do they? Because they have to have the shade, and they also have to live around an acacia like this. An acacia tree are legumes in the same way that beans are legumes. I'll bring you the pod now. And legumes produce nitrogen. And nitrogen, of course, very crucial to many, many species. So this, what looks like damage in the wilderness, is actually a crucial little habitat that has been created by the keystone species that are elephants. Now, just quickly, here we go. Maybe lucky here. I'll just show you what I'm looking at. Bryan, if you look there, you can see a hole being drilled there. And that was probably drilled by a slender ant. And the slender ant would have gone into the thorn, stung it, and then eaten out the flesh that ensued after the sting. And I'm just going to break it open. I don't think there's an ant left in here. No. No more ant. So that's the thorn. And then look at the pod. 2 little seeds. And you can see why. I mean, it is quite leguminous. It looks a little bit like a bean, I suppose. Can you see the sun shining through there?
Mm-hmm.
2 little seeds which would eventually become little Acacia exuvialis. Now remember, everybody, acacias are not acacias anymore, are they, Bryan?
No.
They're vachilias. So we should, in theory, be saying vachilia exuvialis, but I just can't bring myself to do that. I can't bring myself to accept that we no longer have acacias in Africa. Sad state of affairs, really, Bryan.
It is.
Would you like to taste this pod?
Yes, please.
There you are. Mm. Doesn't taste like a bean, does it?
Not really, no. Not delicious.
Yes. An ex-ranger, as you say, the last time I was rendered speechless was when Brent beat me on the 50-meter dash. Still renders me speechless, that ex-ranger. Painful time of my life. Let's head across to Sam while I consider the consequences.
Welcome back to Cheetah Plains. We are now with a number of wildebeest that are grazing on the land here. We were with them last night. We had the dazzle of zebra and the wildebeest that were grazing in the same plains as the sun went down last night. It was an incredible scene to see. As you can see, there's a number of them here, from youngsters to older ones. They will probably be looked after and by a big male. So there's probably a big male here somewhere that holds this territory. There's a little bit of interaction between the young wildebeest here. They're playing, which is quite cool to see. Have a look at how much shorter their horns are compared to the older ones. So over time they'll grow. It looks like three young wildebeest, or a number of the young have come together. It's very, very cool to see that. One's got its head on the back of it. So have a look at these youngsters. They probably were also born in the last season, around November last year. The young ones there with those small horns that are coming through. Looks like a female that's with them. Two females there. And why I really, really like coming to these plains and spending time with these plains animals, that they provide room for us to be able to see and explore the expanse with our binoculars, to see if there might be something just walking across the plains on the other side. This is exactly what happened last time, where I was looking at some wildebeest and I looked in my binoculars and I just saw this big male lion walking on the other side. So just have a look at how far we can see into the distance there while looking at these wildebeest. It's very, very cool. And potentially something might just walk across through that thicket there and show itself this morning. And we know we've got these wildebeest, so everything's looking quite relaxed, which means that there most likely isn't a predator close by. I mean, there might be one lurking or stalking around, and that these wildebeest are not very aware of it, but I can tell you that predators would eat us young wildebeest, such as the ones that we have been looking at now. So if we're spending a little bit more time on the plains here, we might just be lucky one day to see the interaction between predators such as a leopard or a cheetah coming towards these wildebeest. And we don't often get this amount of wildebeest on the plains. Well, not on the plains, sorry, in Jeandre, where our property is. So it's really nice to see these big groups of wildebeest together. I think just while we're chatting about what we've seen here on the plains, we also, it was myself and Jeandre, probably about 3 days ago that came here, 3-4 days ago that were on the plains, and we came across an antelope. Oh, there's a little bit of interaction between the youngsters there. Fascinating. It looked like they had just a little box up between two of them. So as I was saying, just a couple of days ago, myself and Jeandre, we came here, we saw a southern reed buck. Sybil Cecil would like to know if there is crossbreeding between the black and the blue wildebeest. No, I haven't heard of such a thing. I don't think it is possible. I've never heard of any crossbreeding with the black and the blue wildebeest. So I don't think they can breed together. Interesting to find that out. Maybe they could breed together, but they would be able to only have one that then couldn't reproduce. So we saw a southern reedbuck, myself and Jeandre. We would love to find another one. Let's quickly go off to Stef, who's with a beautiful looking caterpillar. Maybe we can find a jackal or a cheetah. We still have time. See you now.
Have a look at this tree that's been de-leafed by something. As you can see, the leaves of this wisteria tree are looking in very poor shape. And we wanted to come and have a look at why, because it's actually covered by a fine web of silk. And inside these little silk, I would say almost, I don't actually know what to call them because they're not quite cocoons. We found the culprit that's busy de-leafing this tree. Have a look over there at this caterpillar. And I think that these silken homes that we're seeing at the moment, or silken shelters that we're seeing at the moment, are there as the first stages of the cocoon of this particular caterpillar. What caterpillar it is, I have absolutely no idea. I just know that it's feeding almost exclusively on the leaves of this wisteria tree, because all the trees around it still have their leaves. So this caterpillar is host specific, and the host is this tree wisteria. And you can see over there, and I wonder if I touch one of these strands. No, so it's not a warning mechanism at all. You can see the caterpillar's not actually taking any notice of me. And I see that the caterpillar is covered by these short spiky hairs, and quite often these hairs that are hard and spiky like that are irritant. In other words, if you get them in your finger or you get them on your arm, they burn quite a lot. So this caterpillar is just finishing up, now the end of the season, enjoyed the late season flush, finished up this tree, and is now busy building a cocoon. And there's a couple of them. This isn't the only caterpillar. So every time I found one of these silken shelters, there seems to be a caterpillar in. Here's one here. I'll turn this branch so that you can see the caterpillar. There we go, Dave. Quite a colorful caterpillar, actually. Some dots on him. Can you get in close, Dave? Or quite a colorful guy. You can see he's yellow and green, got these black and white dots all over him. And that combination of yellow and black on that caterpillar tells me that this guy would be not nice to put into my mouth. It's called aposomatic coloration. See how he's quite light sensitive. As soon as the light touched him, he had a reaction there. So they're sitting on the bottom of the leaf for a reason. You might find that these caterpillars are only really active at night time because of that. They're not really diurnal caterpillars, and it's why we're finding them hanging on the bottom of the leaf and not on the top of the leaf. You can see similar to this one up here on the bottom of the leaf, although this one definitely is in the sun. And that's how we go out here, you know. We're finding 15 things that we don't know and one thing that we do know. So on that particular point, we're going to be sending you through to James, who's got some dwarf mongoose before they run away.
There, everybody, of course, are some dwarf mongoose. And I often am told, and Jerry is specifically good at reminding me, that although we are looking, to me it's an obvious that these are tiny little animals because I'm looking at them not through a screen. You're looking at them through a screen, so it's often, I think, quite difficult for you to get an actual idea of their size. They weigh 350 grams. That's a big one. 350 grams. That is about half a pound. It's almost exactly half a pound. So they are tiny, tiny little things. And they're about sort of, well, how long are they? They're probably about, they're sort of rat-sized. And so they're about up to a foot long. A really big one is about a foot long from toe to tail. Not toe, nose. That's the thing with the hole at the end front, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
Right,
so.
that's the nose.
Yeah.
Nose to tail, up to sort of just short of a foot, which of course is not very long at all. So they really are very small, and they live in these little groups of remarkably, or with a hierarchy remarkably similar to that of wild dogs mixed in with a bit of hyenas. So although the males are dominant because they're bigger, and it's unlike the hyena clan, there is a separate male and female hierarchy that goes on within the clan, and that makes it a little bit like a hyena. And they're not a clan, they're a troop far more than they are a clan. But there is an alpha, a male and female, and they're the only ones that breed, and so in that way they're very much like a wolf pack. And they of course come from the same order as the dogs and the cats and the hyenas, the order Carnivora, but they are a completely different family. And the family they belong to is the Hesperidae, as far as Herpestidae, sorry. And I always love the fact that they keep such leisurely hours. They don't like to get up too early, they like to go to bed early, they have lots of sleep, and they sit in the sun for extended periods like this, just as the sort of day starts to warm, just to kind of, you know, I mean, I can imagine them sitting with a little cup of espresso and the morning newspaper as they take in what they're going to do for the day. There never seems to be much hurry about them unless they happen to be running away from something. Bryan, there's a lovely shot of the backlit one on the log there. That's so cool. Isn't that nice, everyone? And I think exactly, Rebecca's just suggesting a picular. I haven't taken a picular for 2 days. I've been bereft of piculars.
You're going to be out of practice now.
I know. I am out of practice because now the mongoose have disappeared. Well, there's one. I'll take him. I've piculared him. Very nice. I'll have to take a vicular as well. A vicular, of course, everybody, is a video taken through a pair of binoculars. A picular, a picture, photograph taken through a pair of binoculars. And when you are a filmmaker on a budget like I am, well, that's how you operate. You borrow a pair of really good binoculars from somebody whose parents are surgeons, and then you make, you know, videos. What are those two doing there, Bryan? Behind the log there seems to be, yes, there. Seems to be some furious activity in that area. Anyway, I got an update, everybody. Shadow was last seen on Hoffman's, which is exactly where I thought she was. And she does have a den. It seems the cubs are fine. So while there was some fear that they were dead, they don't seem to be. So that's really good news. Is it not, Bryan?
It is indeed.
Indeed. It's so lovely just sitting here like these mongoose in the sun, enjoying the rays with a gentle breeze coming out of the southeast. And Kim the Lion, I think that's your name on Twitter, lovely name on Twitter. You want to know when the breeding season is. They don't really have a breeding season. They're pretty a-seasonal breeders. You'll find that there'll be a peak, probably during the height of the rainy season, simply because there are more insects around then. But I think you'll find that they can probably breed at any time of the year. There's some doves calling above them, and they just are very, very happily peaceful, these chaps. Beautiful, beautiful day is starting to develop here in the Lowveld. And there's nothing else going on here on Arathusa. There was a herd of buffalo by the dam, so we're going to head sort of in that direction, see if we can get sight of that baby hippo. And we'll just see if that baby hippo that was being harassed by the lions the other day is still there. While we do that, let's head across to Stefan the Mystic Boer and see what he's managed to find on foot.
Well, Siberia, we've finally managed to find you your vine, and it's of this beautiful white flower here. This is a vine growing in a common spike thorn, and this flower that you're seeing over here is the Jasminum fluminense, or the river jasmine, and has the most unbelievably epic jasmine-y smell. It's a very jasmine citrusy smell. Oh, it is beautiful. Brings back these good memories of my childhood. And you can see that it actually comes through right into this this common spikethorn, and then basically travels throughout the tree. The tree is infused with this creeper. You can see all over here, all coming down here, and let's see if we can see where it comes out the ground. Here it comes out the ground, somewhere here. Here we go. Oh, that's just another. This is now a baby one, another one coming up. Here's another one coming up. This vine coming up into this common spikethorn, using the common spikethorn for some structural rigidity. It doesn't have to spend a lot of energy making a thick, rigid stem, and it uses the tree to get to the top and into the sunlight as quickly as can. Open up these beautiful blooms, and then what it does is the scent wafts far into the breeze, attracting insects from all over this area. Very clever little flower. Oh, and don't worry, Rebecca, David's got some flowers for you. Rebecca is a smell nut, and she's kindly requested we bring some back for her garden. Anyway, we're going to carry on going. And X-Ranger, you've just asked me a question if there's any vine type plants out here with hooks on them. And yes, I'd like to say there are. Ooh. But before I do that, I've been looking for this species of flower. I've been looking for this species of flower and this spider for a long time. This is a crab spider, and this is a flower-like crab spider. Have a look at that. She's sitting there looking like a bird dropping, and her primary function is to catch flies and bees. Have a look at that. I'm going to ask David to come around because I'm shaking a bit here, and let's see if we can get this spider in full view for you. The reason why I want to show you is this spider has a venom that's keyed specifically to flies and bees. As you can imagine, a bee or a fly has, well, the flies can fly very fast and bees have a sting, and this particular spider needs to have a venom that acts very quickly on those types of insects. And this particular spider has a venom that acts so quickly it paralyzes a fly or a bee almost instantaneously. And so what she's doing is she's got her front legs folded right back, and that's so that she can entangle a fly in her front legs. She'd shoot them forward and then bite them on the head, injecting that venom into them as quickly as possible and incapacitating them. But have a look at that camouflage. She looks exactly like a bird dropping, scale, mold, fungus on a tree. Isn't she beautiful? My favorite species of flower, or species of spider, this, from a decorative point of view, is these crab spiders. Now crab spiders, the crab spider, the six-eyed desert crab spider, has the most virulent toxin in Africa. So the six-eyed desert crab spider has the most, from a man point of view, has the most poisonous poison for us. They don't occur here, luckily. They don't occur here. They occur in very sandy places on our western coast. But the six-eyed desert crab spider can kill us. That's a crab spider that is deadly to spiders and to bees and to flies. Listen to me. And because I finished speaking about that, we're going to go to Sam with a giraffe.
Have a look at this giraffe on our track for a jackal and a cheetah this morning. We just came across a beautiful looking giraffe, that looks like it's about to go down for something to drink. Let's have a look and see what she might do. It looks like it's a she. Yes, it is a female. There are a number of oxpeckers on the back. As you can see, there's one there on the neck of the giraffe, and she is busy. She's got a bolus in her mouth, which means she's chewing the cud, and we might just be lucky enough to see her swallow it. We're in a perfect angle to watch her swallow it. As she swallows it, notice how it goes down, and she waits a few seconds, and then you'll see that ball come back up her throat. But even better, let's get her to drink some. Ooh, she looked like she wanted a drink, and she decided to carry on chewing the cud. Kate is asking, what is the use and origin of the white stripe between the neck and the head? Kate, I think purely that white stripe comes from a lot of movement between the neck and the head. And I haven't often seen that with other giraffes. This is actually the first giraffe that I've seen with that prominent look of that white stripe between the head and the neck. It could just be a characteristic of this female. But it also could very well be from the movement of the head and the neck as it goes and does its different things out there in the bush, from drinking water to feeding on some of the trees. Have a look at the reflection of the giraffe in this water. Isn't that cool? If you want to screenshot a picture of a giraffe's reflection in the water, that's a perfect one, and hopefully the giraffe will get back down and have something to drink below us. So this is where we were sitting a little bit. Well, yesterday we watched a huge, large buffalo herd. So Ginny would like to know, what evidence can we find that giraffes use infrasound to communicate with one another? It's very, very difficult to pick up on that infrasound between the giraffes. It's like you can quite sometimes hear it with elephants, as elephants make a very subtle sound which goes at about 5 hertz. So we talk at around 25 hertz. Elephants will chat at around 5 hertz, and I'm not too sure what the communication, how really low it is with giraffe, but you'll notice that giraffes don't make any significant sounds. It almost looks and sounds like they are mute, or that they don't make many sounds, but they do make some very, very soft sounds. There you can quite clearly see the giraffe moving that. Oh, it just swallowed it. Did you see it go down? And you can see it come back up now. There it is. Awesome. So we're just going to sit with this giraffe. Potentially the giraffe will go down for something to drink. We'll bring you straight back. I know that James is with a suckling waterbuck. Let's go and have a look.
There are some waterbuck, everybody. I know you've seen some, but there's one there that is suckling. Can you see that? Just trying. I think it probably looks a little bit old to be suckling still, and so its mother is not being particularly patient about the whole affair. She's also perched precariously on the dam wall of of Arathusa. And in the background, on the far right-hand side of your screen, you can see monkeys. Vervet monkeys streaming across the plains, and they're heading into the tall trees the other side of the clearings in front of the Arathusa Dam. And we're now, well, we're sort of on the southern side of the Arathusa Dam, so we're actually between. Sorry, there's a giraffe drinking. I don't know what that means.
So chance has it that just as we left you, the giraffe spread its legs and had something to drink. So that's a little bit unlucky. It looks like it's off now. That's okay. We'll get another opportunity to watch a giraffe drinking from a watering hole. But that was still very cool to see a giraffe. It's not the only giraffe. There's another giraffe that looks like a younger one just to the right of this giraffe. It's feeding what looks like an acacia in the distance. Let's see if we can see her. There she is. So it's not one giraffe, it is two this morning. So as I said yesterday, or earlier, there was a really big, large herd of buffalo that came to this watering hole. So there's quite a lot that's going on at Cheetah Plains these days. I mean, there's always been quite a lot. I often find stuff. Sometimes there isn't much in the plains, but there is some beautiful plains animal, and I really think that's an incredible looking shot of the giraffe's reflection in the water there. Those long legs, have a look, those very long legs of the giraffe. So we went looking for some tracks of Inkanyeni and we couldn't find any tracks, so there's no sign of Inkanyeni this morning. And we looked over the plains to see if there was a cheetah or a jackal. And luckily there were no tracks or no signs of the jackal or the cheetah or an ostrich. So we're going to have to hope that potentially in the future we will see that together. I really look forward to it. For the time being, let's go and see how that waterbuck is doing.
Well, we've come onto the dam wall, and well, that little waterbuck is still trying to suckle. You can see on his knees there. That's unbelievable. I've never seen that before. Now, as we stand in the sun here, you can see how fluffy they look, which of course is great for the winter time, but seemingly not very great for the summertime, because here, of course, it gets very, very hot indeed. But I was reading the other day that their fur is in fact fairly sparse, so although it looks quite thick, those long hairs are quite sparsely interspersed. Why it should have hair like that, I don't really know, other than the fact that perhaps in other areas, and certainly not here, but perhaps in other areas they do spend a bit more time in the water, and therefore they need a bit more covering. I don't know. I'm just not convinced that that's a particularly good explanation. Look at that little thing looking at us now. He's got grazes on his knees from all his suckling. I think it's time he moved on to solids, my friend. That's interesting. It does amuse me how much like little donkeys they look. Now, we have been looking in the water here for the hippo that was being stalked by the lions the other day. I can see the big bull in here. I can't see the little one. And Joanne in Arizona, you were asking about where that little hippo is. Joanne, I don't know where it is. Bryan said he last saw it. He says he rather morosely heading off into the wilderness just to the, I think, the western side of where we are now. But what we do know is that that hippo has not died, because if it had, or it certainly hasn't died on Elephant Plains or Arathusa, because if it had, you'll find that the lions or the hyenas would have got hold of it. There'd be vultures everywhere. We'd know about it. I don't know where it's gone. It may have found another waterhole somewhere. The bulls are not generally that good at sharing their water. I'm going to ease gently onto the dam wall here, and let's see if perhaps it isn't lurking just here in the sort of deeper water. You can see that this dam is going to be dry very soon indeed. I don't want to put this little waterbuck off his meal, but he's a bit old for it anyway. Alright, so let's have a look. There you can see the bull. Jamie identified that big hippo as a bull the other day. Ooh, and Bryan, I don't know if you can get this. There's a water monitor lizard. It's not going. Yeah, you can actually see it. It's a slightly dark patch. If you go just to the right of where you are now, keep going, stop there and zoom dead straight in. Okay, up a little and right a little. That dark patch in the middle there That there you go. Can you see it moving, everyone? A water monitor lizard. And it's gone, has it? Not a particularly astounding sighting of a water monitor, but there it is. And that, of course, is one of the largest lizards that we get here. And we read, of course, about lizards being able to lose their tails and regrow them. The monitor lizards are an exception to that group. The chameleons and monitor lizards, they don't get their tails back if they lose them. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the monitor lizard uses its tail as a sort of defensive mechanism. It whips it round. It's quite a vicious kind of striking instrument. And then the other interesting, there's lots going on here actually. You can see the bubbles from the catfish that are now starting to really struggle as this waterhole dries up. Now this waterhole this time last year was pretty much full, wasn't it, Bryan? I mean, it lasted all through the dry season and it was full. It's almost dry now and we're barely at the beginning of the dry season. So I think this is going to be a very difficult time for the animals going forward. Then, the other thing we've got here is a whole lot of warties the other side, well, one at the moment, there were two, but there's a warthog there, and you can see the clearings there are starting to become more and more sparsely populated with grass. As the animals come down to drink, well, they'd ideally like to eat right where they have their water, but obviously that's going to become less and less possible as the dry season progresses. Very, very pleasant morning this. And of course in summer around this time of the day, it's so hot you can barely think. But in winter, it's just perfect. And often when we come out here in winter time, you can spend the whole day out, and that's actually a really nice thing to do. You skip the really chilly part of the early morning, you go out and you have a picnic breakfast and spend until sort of lunchtime exploring and looking about the place. And as it gets a little bit warmer, you move into areas along the drainage lines and explore those. And it's a really good way to spend a day out in the winter wilderness. It's called alliteration, Bryan. You like it? Winter wilderness.
It was amazing.
I do what I can. Right, let's carry on. See if we can get a view of those monkeys the other side there. While we see if we can get a good look at those monkeys, let's go across to Stef and see what he's discovered. No doubt something fascinating.
A water monitor lizard this time of the year, that's actually fantastic. How nice is that? But we haven't got something that's as animated as that, but it's equally, I think, as deadly to anything that it is feeding on. And here we have a giant leadwood tree. That's pretty obvious. Inside the leadwood tree, there's a different tree growing. The tree with the large leaves is not a leadwood. It's a type of fig tree. Now, collectively, we call fig trees like this strangler figs, but they can in actual fact be almost any fig. And it's a very, very clever tree, this. What it's done is produced a fruit that has been attractive for a bird. A bird has eaten the fruit and has come and sat on one of the branches on this leadwood tree and deposited some dung with that seed in. And that seed is actually germinated in the air, in the top of the leadwood tree, probably on the end of that branch that you're seeing, that horizontal branch there, very close to that. That's where the bird would have deposited its seed. And then what would have happened is the tree would have shot out a branch with some leaves on to make some food for itself, and it would have started with these network of roots that have come down from the top of the tree. And as you can see, the roots have gone into the bowels of this leadwood. What will happen is this fig tree will steal the nutrients and the sun from this leadwood and effectively over hundreds of years kill it. And what will happen is that the whole tree will be encased in this network of vines, which are actually the roots of the fig tree. The fig tree's roots will then go into the soil, and the leadwood tree will die and rot, leaving a lattice work of tree. Not really anything. Would steal
I'm not sitting like this because this is a jaunty angle at which to sit, but I've watched some white-crowned shrikes flying overhead, but unfortunately they are not viewable. So our plan from here is to head sort of back towards Jeandre. Now, what happened this morning is that the Salala pride was found on Simbambili. Now, Simbambili, of course, is north of Arathusa, which is where we are now, and now they've turned to the east and they're heading sort of towards Jeandre. I don't know that they're going to arrive there. What normally happens is they kind of go to ground before the morning ends, and then during the course of the evening they pitch up at Sydney's Dam. So we'll head sort of generally in that direction. They'll keep us posted on the radio if they're going to leap off here onto Jeandre or not. Otherwise, we'll just see what other little wonders we can find. Now, we spoke earlier about the acacia trees, and we spoke about the taste of the acacia trees. And what I want to do here is some bark, of course, that has been relatively recently stripped off by some elephants. And then the elephants have rubbed their muddy bodies on the top of the tree, and that's what that mud is. And I was just saying to Bryan, after we ate those pods, I said, it tastes a little bit like the bark tastes. And this is not the same kind of acacia tree. This is a knobthorn tree, and they take a horrible pasting during the course of the winter. You see this ant, Bryan?
Yes?
He's just looking for little things to eat, probably a carnivorous ant. But this bark tastes very similar. The inner bark here.
Careful, James.
Hmm?
I said careful, don't cut yourself.
Yes, thank you, I shan't. It tastes very similar to those pods. And it's actually really good forage if you happen to be an elephant. It's not quite fresh enough to cut. So I'll just give Bryan a little piece of the wood and he'll taste the same thing. They're very small. Yes, I'm not very good at that.
An hors d'oeuvre.
It's an hors d'oeuvre. It's nearly breakfast time. Seasoned coffee. See what I mean? Similar sort of taste. I've lost my little pouch now. Okay, on we go. This knife, of course, I had because I thought that when I was doing my unarmed walks as a trainee, it would be very effective in defending me. Of course, the only thing it's really effective for is cutting jerky or biltong. As a defensive weapon, it is entirely a waste of time. Very similar tasting. So there's obviously some compound in the leguminous acacia trees that gives that taste. And it's what the elephants go for, and it's really very pleasant. It's a bit strong in those pods, to be honest.
Yeah, that was much more pleasant.
It's quite nice though. It's like a chewing gum.
Yeah.
Especially when it's just happened. Now, we were talking also about the fact that those young trees that were pushed over, or the young acacia that was pushed over there, created a whole suite of habitat for other species. And I showed you the grass that grew underneath there, and the fact that the grass needs the shade and it needs the nitrogen that the acacia trees produce. That there, the elephants there have damaged a tree. That tree will survive because it's got some bark growing up the back end, so it can still transfer water from the roots up to the top, and carbohydrates and things and sugars from the leaves down to the roots. So it's okay, it's intact. But even that strip of bark has now created a whole suite of habitat for a whole lot of other animals. You saw the ant there. That's one of the first ones that have come in there. It'll be foraging around for I'm not sure what. Then there'll be bush babies that will come and eat the gum out of where the wound has occurred on the tree. There will be eventually wood borer beetles that will come in and start drilling into the wood, and they'll stick their eggs into the middle of the holes that they bore, and the grubs then will feed off the wood inside. That will open it up for funguses that will go inside the wood and slowly eat out the heartwood. which in turn will make it soft enough for something like a woodpecker to go and peck a hole and make a nest or eat out the grubs for wood. And so just that strip pulling that the elephant's done, that when we see initially we think, oh my goodness, that's a dreadful thing. The tree might die. Now, the tree may well die, but how much else will live as a result of it? And you can just see what an absolutely crucial part of the ecology the elephants are, and the way that they interact with the vegetation is such a crucial part of the survival of so many other species. So many other species, many of which I'm not managing to find right now. I think the birds have become very quiet over the last few days. I don't know why that should be the case. Of course, all the migrants have gone, bar perhaps the violet-backed starling, who still seems to be around the place. There we go, some babblers. And let's hope we can get a picture of the babblers. Oh, there's a robin. Did you see where it flew? See this dead tree on our left? It's just gone in to the right-hand side of that. Down a bit, right, low down. It was just in there. There we go. You saw it fly there.
Yeah.
Sandy, you want to know why we turn off the car every time? Let me just keep quiet, and that will answer the question for you. You can hear the robin calling now. You can hear the black-headed oriole. Toot-toot. The doves, the grey hornbills, none of which you'd be able to hear, Sandy, if I left this big flat 6 2.8 litre engine on. We don't have anti-idling laws in South Africa. It's the first thing you learn as a guide, actually, is that when you get to a sighting, you switch the car off, because one of the main joys of living out here is the sound of the wild, almost even more in some of the sites. Now that sort of sense of peace is going to be rudely awakened by my starting the engine. There was a robin in there, everybody. We so rarely see them. We hear them all the time going, and there was a little white-browed scrub robin that went flying up into the bush there, but it disappeared. All righty, on we go. Keep an eye out for tracks here. Plenty of hyena tracks, as one would expect. Hello, Mia my cat. You were wondering about the sort of bite in the steering wheel there. And what happened there? I'd love to tell you some kind of story of adventure where a leopard leapt onto the front of the car and I fought it off single-handedly, and then, you know, as it was lunging at my hand, I fended it off and its teeth scraped over the steering wheel and it then fell off into the side. But no, I don't know what happened to it actually. It was like this when I arrived. Do you have any idea, Bryan?
No, I don't.
This was Peter Pretorius's car for a long time. Maybe he was hungry one day and just decided he'd see what the steering wheel tasted like. It is kind of it is kind of where you put your mouth if you were going to have a bite. I've got no idea, I'm afraid, what happened to it. Let's have a little switch off here too. And just look down the drainage here, and there's some interesting things. The first is obviously the mud, where buffalo and warthog will still come and try and cool off as the heat of the winter days sort of starts to build. And then, just above that, a magnificent tree known as a Scotia brachypatella, or weeping boerbean tree. And that grows on a termite mound, which is just above this little spot. Oh, and there are some butterflies inside the mud there. Let's have a look at what they are. I suspect guinea fowl butterflies. No, I don't see any. Yes, there is a guinea fowl butterfly. That's a guinea fowl there that's just flying around there. Why aren't you tracking it, Bryan?
Oh, sorry. I was.
And then you also get African jokers in there. I'm, of course, being totally facetious there. Where Bryan to try and track a butterfly, you would all feel nauseous within an instant. There was an African joker. There we go. That orange and white one there is an African joker. And they're just drinking. They just found some moisture in the soil there, and they'll be drinking that soil before flying off. Grief. Did you hear that? That was a vulture, everybody. I don't know if you managed to hear it. They make a horrible hissing sound. It sounds terrifying. And they're so often sitting on a dead tree, and so they make that hissing sound, and then when they take off, a piece of the tree drops, and so it makes a bit of a noise. But I don't know where they are. Somewhere down there. Right here, on the move. Hold on, Bryan. Going up a hill. There. Here are the southern grey hornbills, everybody. Just up in the tree there. 4 of them flying off, and you can hear them making their call. Bleep, 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 bleep. It's so mournful, sad. And the other hornbills have got that cheerful kind of... And these things sound so deeply miserable. Maybe because they didn't get a colourful beak, Bryan. They only got a nasty grey beak.
Most likely.
Most likely, exactly what we're talking. Now, here's exactly what I was talking about. Now, this is actually a really nice progression of what I was talking about. Let me quickly get out and show you. So here is a knobthorn, exactly the same as the one I showed you just now. And this knobthorn has got wood borer beetles have dug into it. You can see here. I think some of the larger holes are made by woodpeckers. And remember I said as they open up, what will happen is that fungus will get into the heartwood. Here is a very small bracket fungus which will grow, but that's only got in here because, of course, the elephants stripped the bark off, the beetles dug into the heartwood. That allowed the spores of the fungus to get inside, which in turn would have rotted away some of the heartwood, and then the woodpeckers would have been able to get in. Now just listen, I don't know if you can hear this, Bryan. This is exactly the kind of tree that a bearded woodpecker would choose to make his drum. The other creature that's starting to live here now, termites. And they're creating a basic, well, they're not creating a mound, but they've got little tunnels up here, and they will slowly eat away the exposed wood and take it down into the ground. I've no doubt they've got a little mound, and a subterranean mound over here. It's getting quite hot, Bryan. I might have to take my jacket off. How many jackets have you got on that's still, Bryan?
3.
Just 3. Oh,
Yeah.
it must be boiling. Bryan is not a man who enjoys the cold.
Yeah.
Don't blame him. Okay, let us press on. And as we press on, let's just go across to Stef, of course, who's slinking stealthily through the bush, and we'll see what he's found.
Ooh, I'm a bit out of breath. Myself and Dave have been trying to hightail it out of a bad signal area there where you had us with that strangler fig. We just didn't have enough signal to finish that segment with you, which is a pity. But nevertheless, we're in a bit of a better area now. It's a bit more open, as you can see. And where we were walking just now, we've come out onto a crest. And what's immediately apparent is just the lack of vegetation. And I must stress again, it's a worry for me to see the crests that are so denuded of any type of vegetation. As you can see, there's no grass here. There's very little plant cover. And the plant cover that there is not that good. Barring this is what we call a round leaf bloodwood. And this is where it gets its name. The round leaf is obviously quite evident. An elephant actively farm these round leaf bloodwoods. And by farm, what I mean is they keep them coppicing. Elephants, what they do with this particular plant is that here's an old one for you. They kick off a stick. They'd kick it off with their toes here at the bottom, hold it with their trunk and kick it off with their toes, and then basically just do exactly this. They eat the bark. Here's a piece of bark that's left, but you can see that the rest of the tree has no bark, and they eat it for the cambium layer which lies just underneath the bark. And we will finish right now because Sam's got a bird that's going to fly away. We'll see you in a bit.
So we have a new bird for our bird lists, everyone. It's a blue waxbill. So this is very exciting. Look how beautiful this bird is. It's got that significant color blue on its breast there and just by its eyes. I don't know how new this is for everyone else, but this is a new one from my bird list, the blue waxbill. So you get another waxbill out here called the common waxbill, which will be a very, very similar size. And the color of the common waxbill is red. So let's put that down. That must be number 45 on our bird list. Can you see how small they are? They really are. I think it's making a little noise there. Did you hear that? Very conical shaped beaks. He's jumping around everywhere. Look how quick they are on these. That was awesome. Common waxbill, new bird to our bird lists. Not a common waxbill, sorry, blue waxbill. So write that down and see what you got. I once saw a blue waxbill getting eaten by, or got caught by a spotted, I think it was one of the birds of prey, but it was incredible to see that. But in the time being, let's go and see how Stef is doing on his walk this morning.
And we're still at this bloodwood. I hope you enjoyed your bird with Sam there. We just had to go and show you that before it flew away. You know how birds get. Trees go nowhere. So we're back at this round leaf bloodwood. Pterocarpus rotundifolia is its name. Pterocarpus rotundifolia. And elephants actively farm these thickets. Now when I say by farm, they coppice them. As I was mentioning before you were whisked away, is the fact that elephants love these sticks. And they farm these sticks. There you can see the father tree or the parent tree. What an elephant did was came and broke that tree off, which forces the tree to coppice. That's what we called here. And then an elephant will come through, and every time he moves through this area, kick one or two of these sticks off, and then turn it in his mouth, literally just to get the bark off. And they will spend hours in these thickets, coppicing these round leaf teaks, or these round leaf bloodwoods, as they're called. And you get quite dense thickets. Here there's just one or two plants, but you get quite dense thickets of these Pterocarpus in this area. And I'll see if I can find, there are some fresh ellie tracks here. And I think let's try and see if I can find you a fresh branch. There's just leaves here. I mean, an elephant has walked probably off with the stick that he was carrying. I don't see it lying anywhere here. But then that is exactly my luck. Exactly when I want to show you something, it's not here. That's how it works. Anyway, let's carry on going. We're following the footprints of these ellies. And here we've got some elephant dung with a joker on it. Not quite on the top end of that piece of dung. Dave, top right. There you go. You come my side, you probably see him a bit better. Sorry. I just want to get David into a position where we can see this joker. He goes from being completely camouflaged to this bright orange display, literally with the beating of his heart. And what's happening there is this butterfly is busy sucking the moisture from the elephant dung, as well as mineral salts. There'll be quite a lot of salt in this elephant dung. And what's happening is that the butterfly is utilizing this dung for his own metabolic processes. Isn't that amazing? Working his way slowly over that dung. And that's just one of the ways that elephant dung benefits animals out here. By providing nutrients, by providing a compost, a ready-made compost, a lot of water. And for a lot of small animals like this, elephant dung is absolutely critical, and it's why we call elephants keystone species. They are the keystone to a lot of species that hang around here. Another keystone species, for instance, would be a fig wasp. Another keystone species would be a hippopotamus. Let's see if you can tell me why. Send through some of your answers to questions@wildearth.tv, and before the show stops, or tomorrow, we'll try and get you some answers for that. Right now, we're busy walking on a game path where some elephant have come through a bit earlier today. This area is literally just blanketed in elephant tracks. I'm expecting us to see one at any moment. Aaron's just asked me if I have a favorite animal to track. Aaron, sorry, a rustling in the bush just... Okay, we've got the elephants. Aaron, I'll get back to you. So I'm just checking wind direction. Okay, we're okay. Come with me, come with me. Come, David. What we got to do is we just got to get out of these elephants' way. They're busy walking across the front, and we don't want to be in their way. We're just going to get into a safer position. We're just going to get into a safer position. David, come outside. We were a little bit exposed there. We're just trying to get downwind of these elephants. They're on quite a wide front. We're looking at probably about 50 meters or so. Okay. We've got a termite mound here. We'll be able to see them from there. Alright, I'm sorry about the joltiness, but that's staying safe in the bush. We were right in their path. We had to make a very quick getaway. They would have walked right over us. Now we're being quite quiet. You can see elephant at the back on a wide front. Lots of elephant. And I'm speaking very softly because we're only about 50 yards away from this big female. And you can just see them pouring out of the bush. Literally 20 or 30 elephant. Now, elephant on foot are very, very dangerous. Especially breeding herds with females and their calves. Something that is probably exponentially more dangerous than lion. Wow, they would have walked straight over us, they did. So what I did, I made a snap decision to put my face into the wind and to head for the highest ground that we have, and that's this termite mound. What I did to get away was I put the wind in my face and I walked to the termite mound that I could see, and that got us out of the path of these elephants. They're still pouring out of the bush, easily 30 or 40, maybe even close to 50 elephants. They would have definitely given us some trouble. Alright, I think I can start to raise my voice a little bit, as you can see. So, I tell you, that gets the adrenaline going. I tell you, to get out of a situation like that, to give you an example of how that was, if we had walked into a pride of lion, it would be about the same sort of intensity. So a pride of lion, herd of elephant at 20 or 30 yards. And as Aqua has just said to me, when I move and Dave moves, everybody moves out of the room with me. So right, we've got a female elephant that's busy. Come with me, Dave. What she's done is she's picked up David and I's footprints, and she's busy sniffing on our footprints.
Step for James to see what they're doing before the end of the show. It's been fantastic, and we'll see you in the afternoon sunset safari.
Hello everybody, we've come back to Juma. We are now on quarantine clearings, and behold the autumn, the ravages thereof here on this marula tree. It has turned from green to yellow, and soon it will drop its leaves here, and there will be that smell of dry leaf litter, so typical of the low-felt winter. I love walking around in it. It's just a very special time of year. Every time of year here is special for various different reasons, and the winter is no exception. And I know many parts of the world people don't like the winter very much. Johannesburg's one of those places because it's cold there and there's not much to recommend it but for in the springtime. But here there's always something exciting, some different kind of the ecology that takes one's interest during the course of every season. You want to lay down a beat there, Bryan?
You got a rap for us?
Yeah, I'll rap. Bryan is going on leave to the bug, to the Joe, to the Joe, to the Johannesburg. Cold, cold, cold as ice in the bug, in the bug, in the Johannesburg. I'm a terrible rapper, but I give it a go. I am better than singing, better rapping. I would like to thank everybody on the show for being with us today. Big thank to Bryan. Bryan's on leave for the day. Bye-bye, Bryan. Big thank to Sam. Big thank to Stef, the guys who were filming them with the camera. Yeah. The final control of Rebecca and Louise. Rebecca and Louise, the original Slim Shady. We're gonna see you later. We'll see you later. We'll see you later. Brent Leo Smith back in the house. Brent Leo Smith back in the house at 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, Brent Leo Smith is back in the house. We'll see you at 3:30. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. We'll see you in the house. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.